I finally made it to enrollment day at Lorland Magic Academy. I took a deep breath staring at the sign. My life has been anything but normal. In my past life, I was an archaeologist on Earth. I was just becoming famous for a big discovery when a car accident killed me. My soul traveled to another world, and I was reborn as the grandson of Count Hobarton. My father was called the Spear of Hobarton, a gifted knight and a strong candidate to inherit the Count's title. When I was 5, they found out I had talent for magic. With a powerful father and magic talent, my family status soared. I was born a winner, but it didn't last. When I was 10, my father died fighting in another realm. Soon after, my mother got sick from grief and passed away too. Everyone who had been friendly because of my father disappeared overnight. If it weren't for my magic talent, my father's old rivals would have found a way to get rid of me. After losing both parents, I went quiet. I stopped socializing and just stayed in my family's courtyard for 8 years. People almost forgot I existed. If the academy hadn't sent me an enrollment invitation, the Hobarton family might have forgotten about me entirely. After finishing the paperwork, I went to a building where they test your magic affinity and waited in line. Necromancy affinity, the testing mage said, glancing at the magic orb. He gave me a pitiful look, then called for the next person. He muttered something about wanting to quit his job and go farm, and said I was seriously unlucky. I had extreme necromancy affinity. I followed the map to find my study area. The man waiting for me was a scruffy old guy who looked nothing like a proper mage. After I told him why I was there, he took a couple swigs of liquor, complained a bit, then looked at my test results. He actually spit out his drink. My necromancy affinity was so high it crushed every other element down to nothing. If the word before, affinity, had been anything other than necromancy, I'd be called a genius. But necromancy is a cursed profession. The curse goes back 1,000 years, to a necromantic catastrophe that swept across the planes of existence. An alliance led by the God of Light stopped it, but the God of Light fell in the final battle. Before dying, he left behind a blessing called last rites. Within its reach, the souls of the dead would find peace, and their bodies would rest undisturbed. This blessing crushed the effectiveness of necromancy. After the God of Light died, his daughter inherited his divine power and became the new goddess of light. She continued her father's work, spreading the last rites blessing everywhere. Now, anywhere there's a temple of light, the blessing covers everything like a net. When living things die, the blessing automatically purifies their bodies. For a regular necromancer, trying to use necromancy on a fresh corpse doesn't just fail. The light energy hits you back. The blessing turned necromancy into the worst profession in magic, nearly removed from the mage association entirely. I'm as unlucky as it gets. If my necromancy affinity had been even a little weaker and I had some elemental affinity, I could have switched to another path. Go practice first, the old man told me. Come back when you've mastered the meditation technique. A few days later, I went back. He never even told me his name. Clearly, he didn't think I'd amount to anything. He reluctantly brought out 2 purified corpses for the lesson. These special corpses weren't touched by the last rites blessing, and they're expensive and hard to get. A necromancer student trying to cast on a blessed corpse would basically be killing themselves. He showed me how to cast skeletal revival, explaining the steps and slowing down so I could see how the magic patterns were built. He demonstrated on one corpse. Bones pushed through the flesh, and a skeleton stood up from the rotting mess. Then he pointed at the second corpse. My turn. I went through the steps and built the magic patterns. A wisp of black light gathered at my fingertip, and I entered a strange casting perspective. I just needed to release it to complete the spell. But when I aimed at the corpse, something unexpected happened. A strange vision appeared. I could see the corpse's time of death, and I instinctively understood a unique version of the spell. I'm careful by nature, so I didn't show this to the old man. I cast the normal version instead. When my black light hit the corpse, a faint white glow appeared and tried to block me. It wasn't strong enough, though, and the black light broke through. After a grisly transformation, a small, frail-looking skeleton stood up, like it had osteoporosis. Excellent. You really are a necromancy genius, the old man said, thrilled, mostly because he wouldn't have to keep buying expensive teaching materials. I didn't ask about the strange vision. I planned to test that in private. Mediv, you've graduated, he said. handing me a signed scroll before I could even ask about the next lesson. I was confused. That felt way too fast. That's how it is, he said. The teaching plan for necromancer students is just the meditation technique and skeletal revival. He showed me the Academy's official curriculum to prove it. I read through the teaching guide the old man gave me. He really wasn't slacking. That's all there is for necromancer students. Honestly, it's lucky anyone teaches this stuff at all. After the necromantic catastrophe 1,000 years ago, most necromancer knowledge has been lost. You felt it when you cast the spell, the old man said. Even purified corpses get affected by the light in areas covered by the blessing. Necromancy is a dead end. You're young, you could switch to the knight's path. He was in a good mood, probably because he unexpectedly made some money off me. Even he, a teacher of necromancy, was about to quit and find something else. That's how bad this profession is. After his advice, he took me to handle my graduation paperwork and turned in his own resignation at the same time. There was nothing left to say. I packed up and left. The moment I walked into the Hobarton estate, a group of young cousins blocked my path and started mocking me. They thought I'd finally risen up, but instead I became a necromancer student, a total joke to them. I looked at them coldly. I have no attachment to the Hobarton family. After my parents died, all I wanted was to get away. Before the mocking went far, a guard came to tell me that Lord Vister wanted to see me. Vister was one of my father's old rivals. After my father died, Vister became a top contender for the Count's title. Mediv, you're a noble mage now. You deserve your own family name, Vister said with a smile. We petitioned the Lorland City Noble Council, and they approved. You are now a proud Odyssey pioneer. He made kicking me out of the family and exiling me to the Odyssey region sound like an honor. Classic Vister, always smiling while twisting the knife. You can go pack. The appointment letter will arrive soon, he said, still grinning. He was thrilled to finally pull out this thorn in his side. I said nothing. Any reaction would just make me look like a clown and give them satisfaction. I don't care about the Hobarton family anyway. Leaving is exactly what I want. The Odyssey region is dangerous, but I have cards up my sleeve. I'm confident I can make it. Vister watched me leave in silence, his eyes calculating. I was in the courtyard checking that everything was loaded onto my carriage when someone started pounding on the gate. From all the noise outside, there was a whole crowd. I opened the door with a cold face. It was the Newent family, along with a bunch of sneering onlookers. I knew immediately what this was about. Shortly after I was born, my father arranged an engagement between me and a girl from the Newent family. After he died, they didn't break it off. As long as my magic talent was decent, the engagement would hold. But now that I'm a necromancer student, I'm worthless to them. With the Hobartons exiling me, the Newents came to cancel the engagement. Before they could even speak, I grabbed the marriage contract and tore it up right in front of them. I never cared about this arrangement. I wanted to end this engagement I never agreed to for a long time. This guy's got some backbone, people muttered, surprised I wasn't humiliated. But surprise or not, they still laughed. A kid born with a golden spoon falling this far is exactly the kind of drama people love. Then Vister showed up with a clerk from the Noble Council to give me my appointment letter. He peeked into my carriage and saw I only packed basic supplies. He put on a caring face, like a kind uncle worried about his nephew's journey, and asked if I wanted to bring a guard along. No need, I said flatly. I'd never accept a guard arranged by Vister. I have no interest in playing games with that old fox. Once I confirmed I had everything in my appointment letter, I cracked the whip and rode out of the Hobarton estate without looking back. I didn't know it then, but somewhere in a tower, 2 armored men were watching me leave. One muttered that he hoped this journey would help me find my strength, and noticed some girl had followed me. The other one was annoyed that I wanted nothing from the family and just wanted to run off on my own. The first one just sighed and said to let me go. The Odyssey region is outside the Givort Federation, far away. But as a pioneer, I didn't have to travel by road. I could use a space gate to reach the border city of Zwan. After a routine check, I drove my carriage through the portal with the rest of the group. After a dizzy moment, soldiers started shouting at everyone to clear the platform. I left Zwan as soon as I got my travel papers. Head west for about 5 days by carriage and you reach Winterhold Fortress, the last stronghold on the border. Past, that is the Odyssey region, land the Federation abandoned 300 years ago after a devastating war turned it to scorched earth. After a day and a half of hard riding, I stopped on a grassy roadside to rest the horse and eat. While I sat on the front of the carriage chewing dried rations, I heard a strange gurgling noise coming from inside. I grabbed my short sword and crept toward the sound. I pulled open a storage crate and found the last person I expected, Audrey, the girl from the UNDEAD family I'd just been engaged to. Before she could explain, a gang of thugs burst out of the trees trying to rob me. "Hey kid, nice carriage. Hand it over if you know what's good for you. How dare you punks act up in front of me?" Audrey yelled, charging out of the carriage. Her timing was perfect. She was clearly relieved to avoid my question. She's a good fighter. She beat those thugs off in no time and came back looking proud of herself. "So why are you here?" I asked, staring at her as she stuffed her face with my rations. The bandit attack wasn't going to make me forget. She started coughing, whether from embarrassment or choking on the dry food. I couldn't tell. "I wanted to ask you what you thought about the engagement," Audrey finally admitted, embarrassed. "But then your family showed up before I could, so I hid in the carriage. Then Vister came, and I was afraid of being caught, so I drank a breath-suppressing potion. That potion is also called a fake death potion. It puts you in a state where you're conscious but can't move, hiding your presence from detection. It's completely defenseless. Drinking it without any protection was incredibly reckless. Audrey is brave, I'll give her that. Swan City is back that way," I told her after hearing her story. "Eat up and head back." She ignored that completely. "Why did you agree to cancel the engagement so easily? Didn't you want to fight for it?" "No point," I said. "Noble marriages are about exchanging value. A necromancer student has no value to either family. Making a scene would just be embarrassing." "I guess you're right," she said, thinking it over. "So you're not leaving?" I asked. "You get to chase freedom, and so do I." She lifted her chin proudly. Turns out, when she was little and hated the arranged engagement, she came to pick a fight with me. I told her that my life is mine to control, and that once I became a mage, I'd go cancel the engagement myself. That made her stubborn. She decided she'd cancel it before I could. She trained hard in combat arts while other girls were busy socializing, all to have the strength to break the engagement on her terms. After my family's troubles, she kept training, but her thinking changed. She realized I was right. Our lives should be ours to decide. She didn't want to be traded like a bargaining chip, canceled on today and married off to someone else tomorrow. Sneaking out of Lorland City felt like a sign that she should chase her own freedom. "Look at you, a weak little mage student who can't even handle petty thieves. You need a knight to protect you." She tapped her sword against her armor to make her point. "The Odyssey region isn't a nice place," I warned her, keeping a straight face. "It's called the Land of Exile for a reason. After the war, the region became total chaos. Thugs, foreign races, people starving. Before me, many pioneers were sent there. At first, the Noble Council genuinely wanted to reclaim the land. After pioneer teams kept dying, it became a dumping ground for families to get rid of unwanted members. Called pioneering, really exile, a hypocritical game the nobles play. I know all that. That's exactly why you need a knight." Her eyes were shining with excitement about adventure. She was too fired up to reason with. We still had 3 days until Winterhold Fortress. I figured she'd calm down and think it through. At Winterhold Fortress, while I was submitting travel papers, a clerk handed Audrey a letter from the UNDEAD family. She'd been missing for days, and her family figured out she'd run off with me. "Mediv, look, there's no going back for me now," she said, reading the letter with a relieved smile. The UNDEAD family had treated her like an outsider her whole life. The love they gave her was nothing compared to what my parents gave me. That's why she quietly followed me. The letter basically said she'd disgraced the family. No noble would marry her now, and she was expelled. Lorland's nobles are that cold. If you shame the family and lose your usefulness, you get kicked out. I know the feeling well. I said nothing, just waved for her to follow. I'd planned to travel alone, but now I unexpectedly had a companion. "Mediv, this isn't the road to the Pioneer territory?" Audrey asked while checking the map as I drove. "Once we pass Winterhold Fortress, everything is the Odyssey region. Wherever I am is my Pioneer territory. That old settlement has nothing but a bunch of thugs. Why would I go there? That's brilliant. You've always had sharp thinking." Even as a kid, she was impressed. Winterhold Fortress was built in a mountain pass, a wall that held enemies back during the war. After passing through, we could still see patrol teams at first. Then gradually, nothing, just wasteland. The patrol zone was safe enough. No thugs bothered us. Once we cleared the Winterhold Canyon, I stopped at a remote set of ruins. That night, I was roasting a rabbit over a fire. Audrey was staring at it, drooling, especially after I sprinkled on spices I'd prepared. Well, looks like dinner's served. The smell of meat brought unwanted guests. Dozens of thugs surrounded us. When they saw Audrey, they got excited, talking about having fun tonight. Then one yellow-toothed brute noticed me and said I was pretty enough to use, and told the others to go easy so they wouldn't damage me. Another thug chimed in that he was into the same thing. They all laughed, treating us like helpless prey. Mediv, I'll hold them off. You run. Audrey gripped her sword and stood in front of me. Some of these thugs were trained fighters, apprentice knights with combat aura. She wasn't sure she could beat them all. Your laughter is ugly, I said coldly, stabbing the roasting rabbit into the ground. Before Audrey could react, and before the thugs could laugh again, I shot over the fire like a shadow. My sword flashed, trailing red. Everywhere I passed, thugs grabbed their bleeding throats, making gurgling sounds. It's a night. Run. The thugs' laughing faces twisted into panic. They didn't expect to mess with a first-rank knight. Run? Not a chance. I moved like a ghost. The thugs dropped one after another. The few apprentice knights among them drew their swords to fight back, but fireflies can't compete with the moon. I cut through their blades with combat aura and slashed their throats. From start to finish, the whole thing took just a few minutes. In front of a first-rank knight, regular fighters and apprentice knights are helpless. When I walked back, Audrey was still staring at me with wide eyes. She couldn't process it. I'm supposed to be a necromancer student. Nobody ever said I was a knight. I ignored her reaction, sat down by the fire, and went back to roasting rabbit like nothing happened. Why didn't you reveal your knight identity? She asked once she recovered. A formal knight is serious power, and being this young as a first-rank knight means a bright future. If I'd shown this back home, the exile and broken engagement never would have happened. The Hobarton family isn't worth my service. My life is mine to control, I said, handing her the roasted rabbit. I've had a mature soul since childhood and always planned ahead. While my father was alive, I secretly used his connections to gather combat training resources. I warned him multiple times before his final battle, but he was too confident and didn't listen. He died on that foreign battlefield. After my parents died, I started planning to leave the family. For 8 years I kept to myself, training with those hidden resources. I considered the possibility that my mage talent might be bad, so I never put all my eggs in one basket. My whole plan was to leave and stand on my own. Why would I reveal my knight identity just to serve the Hobartons? Wow, this is amazing. Audrey got distracted by the rabbit meat. She swore it was the best thing she'd ever eaten. She was curious about how I spent those 8 years. Hey, you really have zero feelings for me? She nudged me with her elbow, still bothered that I agreed to cancel the engagement so easily. Not interested, I said. Wait, don't tell me you're into. She glanced over at the dead yellow-toothed thug with a weird look. Don't question my preferences. Look at yourself. What's there to attract anyone? I shot back, glancing at her flat chest armor. Don't underestimate me. She took off her chest plate and smirked. Fine, I admit you're good at hiding things. I didn't expect she'd been binding herself that tightly. She leaned in close, trying to make me lose my composure. So? Anything? Do you actually want something to happen? I was baffled by the way her mind works. She started excitedly describing her fantasies. Us going through life and death adventures, having a nice evening after some quest, all sorts of scenarios. In every one, she was in control. Now that she knew I was a knight, she had new ones, like me getting caught up in the moment and pinning her against a wall. You really have quite the imagination. All about me. I didn't know what to say. Who else? I ran off with you. If I'm not fantasizing about you, then who? She rolled her eyes. I don't have time for that right now. I don't even have a place to live, and we're still in danger, I said, changing the subject. If you need to burn energy, go bury those corpses, or dig up the bones from these spots I've marked. Humph. Even if you wanted me, I wouldn't say yes, she huffed. Hey, there are fresh corpses right there. Why dig up old bones? She asked, being practical now. Do you know why necromancers declined? I asked. She shook her head. Those corpses are bathed in holy light right now. Casting necromancy on them would basically kill me. That's the god of light's last right's blessing. It specifically targets necromancers. Once she understood, Audrey grabbed a shovel and started digging without a hint of noble girl fussiness. I dug too, pulling up bones that had been buried since after the last rite's blessing began. They still had traces of the blessing on them, garbage material for a normal necromancer. But I wanted to test my special version of skeletal revival. I entered my casting state, and in my spirit vision I could see the skeleton's information. A human skeleton, 137 years old. I chose my special casting method. The black necromancy light hit the bones, and the spell worked, but no skeleton appeared. Instead, the bones melted in the black light and condensed into a pale green bone arm. My vision showed me its details: a green bone part, usable for assembling a green bone skeleton. Green bone parts come from skeletons that are 100 to 300 years old. A freshly raised green bone skeleton is equal to an apprentice knight, with a growth ceiling of second rank. This was exciting. My mage talent had merged with my past life's soul and mutated into a unique time-based magic. For me, the older the bones, the more valuable. Time itself is power stored up. I shouldn't be called a necromancer. I should be called an archaeologist. I dug up more bones and started measuring their ages. When my black light hit bones from 5 to 50 years old, my spirit vision showed gray light. Those become gray bone parts. Gray bone skeletons start at militia level, with a ceiling around apprentice knight. Bones from 50 to 100 years glow pale white and become white bone parts. White bone skeletons start at elite soldier level, with a ceiling of first rank. When my black light hit a skeleton over 300 years old, my spirit vision lit up with a bright blue glow. Bones over 300 years become blue bone parts. But I couldn't see more details. My mental strength isn't high enough yet. I need to become a first-rank mage before I can process bones that old. When I aimed at the fresh corpses, my mind stung with pain, and I quickly canceled the spell. Bodies under 5 years old can't trigger my time magic, and using regular necromancy on them would get me hit by the last rite's blessing. So fresh corpses are useless to me either way. I've only been a necromancer for a short time, so my magic reserves are tiny. A few casts and I need to meditate to recover. Over the next several days, Audrey dug up bones while I alternated between casting and meditating. After a few days of work, I had over 20 bone parts stored in a chest. Human skeletons break down into 6 parts: skull, torso, left arm, left leg, right leg. Most of the bones buried under these ruins were old enough to produce green-grade parts, over 100 years. Each skeleton had a specialization from its past life. I picked out a matching set of warrior bones and attempted my first time skeleton revival. The 6 green parts floated up into a magic formation and began fusing together. It was incredibly draining. Sweat beaded on my forehead, and my mind started going fuzzy. But I pushed through, and right at the edge of collapse, a cool stream of energy washed over me. The green bone skeleton revived successfully, and I received something called the Spring of Time. It completely restored my magic power and even boosted my mental strength. This time-based revival actually strengthens my spirit. I was thrilled. With a talent like this, I'd never have to worry about training resources. The green bone skeleton warrior was as strong as an apprentice knight, with bones so hard it could fight Audrey to a draw. Am I really that useless? Audrey asked, staring at the skeleton. Years of hard training, and she's only slightly better than something I casually raised from the dead. No, you're talented. I believe in you, I told her. The skeleton could match her only because it doesn't feel pain. Living bodies can't compete with undead in that way. Audrey is actually close to forging her combat aura and becoming a first-rank knight. That's the real breakthrough. I gave her my leftover knight training resources as a reward for all her digging. With the skeleton workers now, she could focus on training. A month and a half passed. I spent nearly every waking moment either meditating or refining bone parts. I processed close to 200 skeletons, mostly between 100 and 300 years old, the rest over 50 years. I assembled and revived them based on their specializations. I noticed each revival gives me a small boost to mental strength, but the full restoration of magic and spirit only happens when I revive a new type of skeleton for the first time. My ruins now had 6 white bone skeletons and 12 green bone skeletons active. The white bones were 4 farmers and 2 hunters. The green bones were 8 farmers, 1 hunter, and 3 warriors. This place was probably a village. Most of the buried remains were farmers. White bone skeletons are equal to elite soldiers, green bones to apprentice knights. In combat, warriors are best, then hunters, then farmers by a wide margin. The farmer skeletons aren't fighters, they just have tough bones and no pain. My time-revived skeletons don't need me to give them equipment. Skeleton farmers come with bone sickles, hunters with bone bows and arrows, warriors with bone swords, shields, and armor. Their gear grows from their own bones and slowly regenerates if damaged. In this month and a half, besides some thugs near the ruins at the start and occasional wild animal attacks, things were calm. I had the warriors and hunters on patrol and hunting duty, while the farmers dug up more bones from the spots I marked. This area had been settled for a long time, so there were many buried remains. Maybe because of the holy light exposure, bones in this world decay much slower. The farmers even dug up a few skeletons over 500 years old. Those glowed purple in my casting vision. But well-preserved bones that old are rare. I wasn't surprised, though. In my past life as an archaeologist, I'd handled plenty of 1,000-year-old complete skeletons, some even with flesh still attached. I'm just a mage student right now. I can't even process blue bones, let alone purple. Those I stored carefully for later. Meanwhile, back in Lorland City, Vistor's butler reported that mercenaries in the Odyssey Pioneer territory hadn't seen me. I'd been past Winterhold Fortress for almost 2 months without reaching the settlement. I overestimated him. He can't even make it to the Pioneer territory, Vistor said. He'd thought I might be a threat and set up an elaborate scheme, but I couldn't even show up for it. His butler flattered him, pointing out that a necromancer student with no guards and just a pretty noble girl was easy prey for thugs. Vistor agreed, but told them to search the road anyway. He'd already paid the mercenaries, so they might as well earn it. During lunch one day, Audrey noticed me sketching on paper. "Are you designing a castle?" "Yes. We can't live in a carriage forever." "I'm planning my territory," I said. My designs had 2 building types. Small blocks, 10 by 10 grids of 100-meter squares, for residential areas. Each block with 2 rows of back-to-back buildings, 3 vertical streets, and horizontal streets on the edges. Then large 1,000-meter blocks for development zones, surrounded by fortress towers. The space between large blocks would be main roads. My future territory would be wrapped inside these towers. The inner towers would house support skeletons. The outer towers would be for warriors. It's a massive project, but I'm a construction fanatic. And undead skeletons never get tired. Once my numbers grow, I'll have plenty of workers to make it happen. In my past life, I was a scholar with broad knowledge, so designing things comes naturally. The skeleton farmers had dug up enough bones to keep me busy for a while, so I designed a simple brick kiln and had them start making bricks for building materials. The smoke from the kiln was hard to miss. A gang of thugs wandering the wasteland spotted it and came over. Well, a camp. And look, skeletons. We've got ourselves a necromancer. They burst out laughing. Necromancers haven't been feared for 1,000 years. In today's world, even a strong farmer could bully a necromancer student. A skinny guy jumped forward, bragging he could smash all my skeletons with one hand. The others cheered him on, telling him to show the great necromancer lord that times have changed. They were thrilled at the chance to watch a mage's precious skeletons get destroyed like stray dogs. The skinny thug looked at my skeleton warrior with contempt, put away his chipped iron knife, and picked up a wooden stick. He thought using a real weapon on a skeleton would be insulting. He leaped at the skeleton warrior's head with a big swing. The skeleton raised its bone shield to block, didn't budge an inch, then swept its bone sword upward and split the guy's face in 2. The thugs were stunned. Weren't necromancer skeletons supposed to fall apart after a few hits? How did this one instantly kill their man? "That skeleton's not normal. Rush it together," the gang leader ordered. They learned the hard way. My 3 green-boned skeleton warriors were each as strong as a senior apprentice knight. The skeleton hunters picked off thugs 1 arrow at a time. Even the skeleton farmers, who aren't built for fighting, just tanked hits without flinching and cut through regular thugs like wheat. Within moments, most of the gang was down. The leader realized he needed to run. I stopped watching from the sidelines. I burst forward with combat aura, caught up to him in a flash, and put my sword through his neck. He dropped, knowing a knight had killed him. It's over already. Audrey had just finished off 1 rookie apprentice knight and looked around to find nobody left standing. She didn't dwell on how strong my skeletons were. "We're in this together, so my strength is good news for her. She ran over to claim credit for her kill. After looting the bodies, I had the white bone farmers drag the corpses to a burial site. Fresh bodies are useless to me. They need to sit in the earth and age. The Odyssey region is crawling with thugs, hostile tribes, and magical beasts. If I want to rise here, there will be many more fights. Today was just an appetizer. I went back to refining bone parts. Just like apprentice knights have rookie, intermediate, and senior levels, mage students have low, mid, and high tiers based on mental strength. Knights train by eating. The more nutritious the food, the faster their blood energy grows. Mage students need meditation potions to train efficiently, and pure meditation alone is painfully slow. I never had a chance to get meditation potions at the academy. I was barely there. But my special talent lets me bypass that. Every time I cast Time Skeleton Revival, the Spring of Time feedback strengthens my spirit. After a month and a half of constant work, I was close to reaching mid-level mage student. The stronger my spirit, the more magic power I can generate, the more bone parts one can refine, the more skeletons I can revive, the more feedback I get, and the stronger my spirit grows. It's a perfect cycle of positive feedback. I'll only keep getting stronger. A week later, Audrey was running circles around a small 3-room brick house, cheering. It had been just over 2 months since we left Lorland City. We finally had a real home instead of sleeping in a carriage. "Mediv, you're so thoughtful," she screamed when she found a steaming hot bath in her bedroom. 2 months of sleeping rough, and she could finally take a proper hot bath. In the other bedroom, I was soaking in my own hot spring pool with my eyes closed, relaxing. I didn't build hers specially for her. I was making one for myself and just built her one too while I was at it. Another week passed, and I crossed the mental strength threshold to become a mid-level mage student. Normal mid-level students would still be at the academy learning multiple spells. Not me. As a necromancer student, I got kicked out after learning meditation and skeletal revival. I have nowhere to learn new spells, so I just keep casting my time-enhanced revival over and over. The spot I chose to settle is remote and barren, nothing worth looting. In the past couple weeks, only some wild animals came sniffing around at night, and my skeleton hunters dealt with them before they got close to the house. With my stronger spirit, refining bone parts became smoother and faster. I added 2 more white bone farmers, for green bone farmers, and 2 green bone warriors to my forces. My production speed was really picking up. Then thunder rolled in, and the rainy season hit. Days of heavy rain turned the ground to mud. The Odyssey region entered a rare peaceful period. Thugs and tribal groups don't like going out in storms. The rain didn't affect me though. My brick warehouses were stocked with enough bones to last the whole season. After 2 months of digging, the shallow layer of bones under the ruins was all dug up. The deeper layers were beyond my mental reach, so I couldn't map them yet. With no bones left to dig, the skeletons switched to making brick molds and firing bricks. The ruins now had several warehouses and were starting to look less desolate. Inside our little brick house, I sat among piles of bones, refining parts. Audrey was at the table, chin on her hands, watching me. She was wearing a simple dress she'd bought at the Winterhold market instead of her armor. She didn't mind being relaxed around me. It's just the two of us, and she knows I could overpower her if I wanted. She figured if I ever tried anything, she couldn't stop me anyway, so she didn't stress about it. But all I had on my mind was skeletons, not the scenery in front of me. "Enemies incoming," I said suddenly, sensing one of my skeletons fighting something. We ran to the doorway. In the pouring rain, I saw creatures with fins on their backs, fishmen. They're the one species that loves raiding in heavy storms. "Need backup?" Audrey asked. I shook my head. "Only about 30 fishmen, none of them supernatural tier." My skeletons handled it quickly. "Be careful now," Audrey warned as the skeleton farmers hauled away the bodies. Fishman blood has a unique stench that carries far in the wind. Other fishmen can smell it from great distances. Killing this group might stir up a hornet's nest. I already knew. The moment I saw fishmen, I knew trouble was coming. But they attacked my doorstep. I had no choice. And killing them would attract more, wave after wave, until the rainy season ends or I scare them off completely. Panic doesn't solve anything. I calmly went to the warehouse and picked out a set of green bone warrior parts, all over 250 years old. Higher age parts are harder to revive. When I was still a low-level student, I'd failed with parts over 200 years. Now as a mid-level student, maybe I could manage. It was just as grueling as my first green bone warrior revival. Sweat dripped down my face. But I pushed through, and right before my magic ran dry, the bones assembled and stood up. This warrior had deeper green coloring and a sturdier frame, closer to the line between apprentice knight and true knight. Not quite supernatural, but nearly there. My magic had barely started recovering when the next wave hit. More fishmen, drawn by the blood smell. A bigger group this time, but I held back. I needed to save my strength for any supernatural tier fishmen that might show up. My skeletons could handle regular ones. Led by 5 green bone warriors, my skeletons wiped them out without too much trouble. But the blood in the air only got thicker. The attacks came faster and faster. The second wave barely fell before the third charged in. Then the fourth and fifth came from different directions simultaneously. I didn't go help at the warehouses. I was staring into the rain at the sixth wave. This group wasn't large, but it was dangerous. I sensed 2 supernatural fishmen among them. They sensed me too and charged straight for the brick house. Only supernatural can beat supernatural. I drew my sword and faced both of them alone. Audrey and my newest green bone warrior engaged the strong regular fishmen, keeping them off me. This was my first supernatural level fight, 2 against 1. Winning wasn't guaranteed, let alone winning fast. My years of sword practice paid off. I wasn't at a clear disadvantage, even outnumbered. Audrey and the warrior fought with everything they had, making sure no other fishmen could flank me. At the warehouses, the green bone warriors broke through the fishmen lines to come support me. They don't fear wounds or pain, they just charge straight through. The remaining skeletons held the line over there. With the warriors' help, things improved. But it didn't last. Another wave of fishmen arrived and joined the fight at the supernatural fishman's command. At this rate, I'd lose. I needed a plan. During the chaos, one fishman's blade got stuck in a green bone warrior's thick bone armor. I seized the opening and slashed a massive wound across the chest of the supernatural fishman in front of me. I spun to attack the second one, but he'd already dropped his weapon and leaped back out of range. That was the plan I came up with mid-fight. Use the green bone warriors to catch a fishman's blade, then strike while the supernatural fishman's weapon was stuck. It worked, and I badly wounded one of them. But the trick only works once. After that, they'd be on guard. Pulling 2 warriors over to block for me put huge pressure on Audrey and the rest. I needed to end this fast before fishman reinforcements overwhelmed us. Just when I was going all out to finish the wounded supernatural fishman, a different kind of breakthrough happened. The newest green bone warrior, the one I'd just revived from the oldest parts, pushed past his limits in the heat of battle. He awakened bone spirit energy and became a first-rank bone spirit warrior, a true supernatural creature. The bone spirit warrior fought like a maniac, trading blow for blow, and took down the uninjured supernatural fishman. I used that opening to kill the wounded one. With both supernatural fishmen dead, the regular fishmen scattered. A new wave that had just appeared in the rain turned and vanished. The death of their supernatural leaders frightened them, and other supernatural fishmen weren't willing to risk coming either. Mediv, we won. Audrey wiped rain from her face and smiled at me. She's got a strange personality, but in a fight, she doesn't complain. Her armor was covered in blood, but she didn't whine about pain. Hey, Audrey. I started to say something, but her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. I rushed over, checked her breathing, just unconscious. I carried her inside and started treating her wounds. Once I removed her armor, the injuries were way worse than they looked from outside. I used magic to pull out clotted blood and debris, washed everything with hot water, applied medicine, and bandaged her up. Then I laid her on the bed to rest. I checked the skeleton squad's damage. Better than expected. Only the 2 warriors who blocked blades for me were seriously hurt. The rest just had minor cracks that would heal on their own. Time skeletons are tough, much harder to put down than flesh and blood fighters. The fishman corpses were also covered by the light blessing, so they were useless as necromancy material. The biggest gain from this battle was the green bone warrior, who became a bone spirit warrior. Bone spirit energy is a supernatural force similar to combat aura. Having a supernatural fighter on my side gave me real peace of mind. I rested briefly, then went right back to meditating, refining bone parts, and reviving skeletons. No time to relax in the Odyssey region. Audrey woke up later that evening. She's got strong constitution as a senior apprentice knight, and I'd treated her wounds properly, so nothing got infected. She lay on her side quietly, watching me work on bones. When I walked over to check on her, she suddenly asked, "Mediv, will you take responsibility? Just rest and stop fantasizing. I'll deal with you sooner or later," I said, glaring at this girl who can't stop daydreaming even while injured. She giggled and closed her eyes peacefully. I smiled to myself and went back to work. After killing those 2 supernatural fishmen, no more fishmen came for half a month. The Odyssey has plenty of easier targets. They weren't going to keep banging their heads against a hard wall. After 2 weeks of rain, the sky cleared and the season ended. Audrey healed completely, and all damaged skeletons recovered too. During that time, I revived more skeletons. My current force is 10 white bone farmers. For white bone hunters, 19 green bone farmers, 2 green bone hunters, 7 green bone warriors, 1 green bone blacksmith, and 1 first-rank bone spirit warrior. The skeleton squad was taking real shape. The fast progress came from having stockpiled mismatched bone parts. Over time, enough accumulated to complete full sets. I still had hundreds of bones in the warehouse. But thinking ahead, as soon as the weather cleared, I went exploring and found another ruined residential area. I marked digging spots and sent the skeleton farmers. They're efficient workers and cleared the site quickly. Back at camp, under my direction, they started building with the bricks we'd stockpiled during the rainy season. The construction follows my plan, a core territory of 10 by 10 100-meter blocks. The center 4 blocks are for my lord's castle. My little brick house sits in the northwest corner of 1 castle block. To the north, I'm building a row of connected structures, fortress towers on the north side, warehouses on the south side, back to back. That row is about 30 meters long and growing eastward. To the west, a similar column runs southward, about 20 meters so far. My goal is clear: build a ring of these fortress warehouses around the castle zone, seal the 4 corners, and create a fully enclosed camp. The fortress warehouses themselves serve as the walls. It's been exactly 3 months since I left Lorland City. My territory has a real foundation now. Next step is finishing the enclosure. As soon as the rain stopped, thugs came out too. A gang that had been starving in their leaky camp for weeks spotted my neat brick buildings and got excited. A place this well built had to belong to someone rich. No guards visible, just a few dozen skeletons, easy pickings. They planned to rob me and move right in. They charged in screaming, expecting to smash the skeletons in seconds. The skeletons smashed them instead. I don't take in thugs. Not one survived. The skeleton farmers dragged away bodies with faces frozen in shock and confusion. Weren't necromancer skeletons supposed to be the weakest things around? Were these thugs playing an outdated version of reality? Thug attacks had become routine. I didn't even step outside, just kept assembling skeletons while the squad handled everything. After the bodies were buried, the skeletons went right back to building. The rainy season was the calm before the storm. Once the skies cleared, the Odyssey region turned bloody. Thugs and tribal groups had starved for weeks and now raided like mad. Over the next 2 weeks, my camp got hit twice by thugs and once by a goblin tribe. That's not bad luck. That's just normal here. None of the attacks caused any real damage. My skeletons are tough, and with the bone spirit warrior standing guard, I didn't need to lift a finger. Supernatural fighters aren't common. Besides the fishmen during the rains, I hadn't run into any. In those 2 weeks, my camp changed a lot. The north row of fortress warehouses was 90 meters long. The west column reached 50 meters, and the northwest corner was sealed shut with a double-layer fortress tower that formed an overhead corridor connecting the 2 rows. Skeleton hunters could shoot from the wall notches, and below the corridor was a gate fitted with an iron-reinforced wooden door. My skeleton count grew too. 15 white bone farmers, 6 white bone hunters, 1 white bone warrior, 23 green bone farmers, 3 green bone hunters, 11 green bone warriors, plus a green bone blacksmith, butcher, and cook, and 1 bone spirit warrior. 19 new skeletons in just over 2 weeks. As my mental strength grows and bone parts pile up, my production speed keeps increasing. 2 of the green bone warriors were built from parts over 250 years old. I had high hopes they could awaken bone spirit energy and become supernatural. Parts close to 300 years old I kept in storage. The gap between green and blue bones must be huge, and I can afford to wait a few years. One morning, Audrey saw me gathering all the greenbone warriors. "Where are you going this early?" "Hunting," I said, excited. My skeleton hunters had spotted a first-rank magical beast at dawn, a cold-horned deer. Magical beast meat is high-energy food, perfect for cultivating combat aura. I can't cast attack spells, so boosting my physical combat power through aura matters. "Wait for me," Audrey shouted and ran to gear up. If we got this deer, eating its meat could push her past her bottleneck. The deer sensed us coming and woke up angry in its cave. It formed ice spikes on its antlers and fired them at my warriors. The first hit gouged a chunk from a bone shield and froze the warrior's arm solid. When that one was stuck, the next warrior stepped forward to take the second spike. My strategy was clear: rotate the greenbone warriors to drain the deer's magic power. After 7 or 8 ice spikes, the deer's antlers stopped glowing so fiercely. Running low on magic, it got desperate and charged head-on, trying to ram through the frozen warriors. The bone spirit warrior stepped in with a shield bash to the deer's face. Stunned, the deer released all its remaining magic in a burst of freezing air, locking down the bone spirit warrior. That was my opening. I rushed in during the empty window after its blast and slashed deep into its right foreleg. Unfrozen warriors swarmed in, hacking at it. The deer bucked and rammed, sending warriors flying. But without magic, it was far less dangerous. I kept directing warriors to block its charges while I cut it from the sides. I wore it down piece by piece. Once the bone spirit warrior shook off the frost, it was over. The deer died under our blades. Then I noticed something interesting. The greenbone warriors were automatically absorbing the deer's blood that splashed on them. I used my magic to gather the scattered blood and wrap it around my 2 strongest greenbone warriors. In that blood mist, both of them awakened bone spirit energy and became supernatural. 2 new supernatural soldiers. I was thrilled. Magical beast blood can trigger bone spirit awakening. That's incredibly valuable. This didn't happen with the fishman blood earlier, so clearly not all blood works. I gave the remaining blood to the warriors who took the worst hits from the charging. Their cracked bones healed completely. Back at camp, I skinned the deer and removed the antlers myself. I used its magic core as a natural freezer to ice down the butchered meat and bones. That afternoon, I stewed a big pot of meat. Audrey parked herself by the stove, waiting for me to say it was ready. After the feast, I trained my breathing technique to convert the blood energy into combat aura, not wasting a drop. Magical beast meat is the best fuel for combat training. In just 1 week, I advanced from first-rank low-level to first-rank mid-level knight. I'd been stuck at low-level for a while. Audrey successfully forged her blood into combat aura and became a first-rank low-level knight, finally stepping into the supernatural realm. After a week, the meat was gone. We were down to bones and scraps for daily soup. Combat aura is just one way to strengthen myself. My main focus stays on the mage path. That week, I never slacked on meditation or bone refining, not even for a moment. I even turned down Audrey's enthusiastic invitation to celebrate her knight promotion. It's a night. Run. Another week passed, and with thugs screaming in despair, I entered my 5th month as a pioneer. Audrey rode back through the northwest gate. The camp had changed enormously in the past 2 weeks. More fortress warehouses were complete, connected by overhead corridors with gates underneath. The entire north wall was now sealed. You could only enter through the gates or from the still open south side. On the west and east, walls were being built southward. Every morning, I woke up to visible progress. In 4 months, I'd revived 27 white bone skeletons and 55 green bone skeletons. My core fighting force was 3 first-rank bone spirit warriors, 12 green bone warriors, and Audrey as a first-rank knight. I rarely fight anymore. Almost all my time goes to meditation and reviving skeletons. Looking at the walls, still less than half finished, I decided the camp needed more labor. I spent 5 days turning all the younger bones in storage, 5 to 50 years old, into gray bone parts. They cost very little magic to refine. I assembled 36 gray bone skeletons, 24 warriors, 8 hunters, and 4 farmers. These bones came from the chaotic period after the war, so most were fighters, not villagers. Gray bone skeletons are weak. The strongest gray warrior is about equal to a trained militia. I don't expect them to fight. They're construction workers. While I was making them, building continued. The northeast corner got sealed with another corridor and gate. The northwest, north center, and northeast entrances were all walled up. A western gate went up too. Both east and west walls were growing southward daily. Meanwhile, something was heading my way that I didn't know about yet. A slave hunting party had arrived outside Winterhold Canyon. Their leader, a man named Venice, chose not to go through the fortress. His nephew Sharlach didn't understand why. Going through the canyon would get them back to the Givort Federation in days. Venice explained that the Federation nobles would confiscate their captured slaves at the checkpoint, probably slap them with fines on top. Even without that risk, he refused to pay the steep border and trade taxes. Smuggling the slaves back to the slave market through a longer mountain route would net him enough profit for years. That night, Sharlach eyed the slave tent hungrily, wanting to get at the female slaves. Venice smacked him with his cane and told him not to touch the merchandise. This batch could fetch top prices at auction. He promised to treat Sharlach to the red light district once they got back. The next afternoon, their scouts spotted my camp near the Winterhold mountain range. Venice asked about the defenses. The scouts reported about 100 skeletons, 1 mounted guard, and walls nearly complete except for the south side. Venice stroked his chin. A necromancer. Unusual. He wasn't sure if anyone would buy a necromancer slave, but he was going to raid my camp regardless. He knew necromancers need purified corpses to make skeletons, and those have to be smuggled from planes without the god of light's blessing. He'd made his first fortune smuggling exactly that kind of corpse. A necromancer with nearly 100 skeletons must have spent a fortune on materials. This was a fat target. Any other type of mage, Venice would have run the other direction. But necromancers are the exception. They're so weak in direct combat that even a lower-ranked knight can beat them. Necromancer has become synonymous with trash. When the slave hunters approached, my skeletons were already lined up at the south gap in formation. Sharlach spotted Audrey on horseback behind the skeleton line and lost his mind. He screamed that nobody else could have her and charged straight at her. The slave hunters laughed as Sharlach charged at Audrey. Venice didn't stop him. His nephew was a first-rank knight, and he didn't believe my camp had anyone who could threaten him. Audrey had been itching for a chance to prove herself. She rode out to meet him head-on and held her own. Venice's eyes narrowed when he saw that. He hadn't expected a necromancer to have a knight as a guard. Stop messing around and smash those skeletons. Go help Sharlach, Venice shouted at his men, who were still joking about who'd go solo the skeleton line. His men charged in thinking one swing would shatter my skeletons into bone dust. Instead, they got swords through the chest and slashes across the throat. The skeletons they dismissed killed them instantly. The hunters dropped in confusion and terror. Within seconds, only the vice-captain and a few senior apprentice knights were left. The vice-captain, a real knight, was surrounded by 3 bone spirit warriors who beat him around like a spinning top. The last apprentice knights fell one by one. Venice finally realized he'd kicked an iron wall. He jumped on his horse and screamed for Sharlach to run. Going somewhere, I leaped up and knocked Venice off his horse with one strike. His light armor saved him from dying instantly. Sir Mage, I meant no offense. I'll pay generous compensation. Please forgive my rudeness. He dropped to his knees, begging. Most mages are greedy, and necromancers who need expensive purified corpses are even more desperate for money. He thought he could buy his life. Offense. There is none, I said with a cold smile. Just as his eyes relaxed, thinking we had a deal, I ran my sword through his heart. Dead men don't talk about offense. I don't let enemies walk away. On the other side, Sharlach panicked and tried to flee. Audrey cut him down from his horse. Hey Mediv, I killed a knight. She dragged his body back, bouncing with pride. Nice work, I said, smiling, and patted her shoulder. Next time, try a little lower, she said, bending over and wiggling. I resisted the urge to kick her from behind and sent the gray bone skeletons to search the slave hunters' wagons instead. Under the covers were cage wagons, 3 of them, holding 25 female slaves. They all had features different from normal humans. They were tribal women captured from Odyssey's native races. Exotic female slaves are luxury goods in the Givort Federation. My father once took me to an auction. I remember it clearly. Lots of slave hunting parties come to the Odyssey to make money this way. What do we do with them? Audrey asked, peering curiously at the caged women. Bring them to camp. Anyone who runs, dies, I said flatly and walked away. Pointless killing serves no purpose. These Odyssey natives might be useful for local intelligence. Some of them understood the human language and whispered among themselves. Audrey had the gray skeletons pull the wagons into camp, opened the cages, and settled the women in empty warehouses on the west side. The raid had zero impact on camp operations. I went right back to refining bones. I honestly almost forgot about the women. That night, one tried to escape. A cat tribe warrior among them stopped her. She'd been watching my skeletons closely and knew their strength. She understood I had little interest in them, but escaping would fail and only anger me, bringing death on everyone. She talked the others out of running. Over the next few days, it was like they didn't exist. I didn't bother with them. Audrey visited occasionally, and the skeleton cook delivered meals on schedule. As long as they didn't wander, nobody cared about them. 10+ days passed with no visitors. The tribal women watched the camp transform around them. The east and west walls were done. Skeletons were building the south wall from both ends toward the middle, soon to meet at the south gate. It looked like a last chance to escape, but there was none. The cat tribe warrior had been counting skeletons, 9 new white ones and 15 new green ones in this period alone. She also noticed one green warrior had grown stronger. She was right. Another bone spirit warrior had awakened. She understood their situation was dangerous. Having no value and not being needed meant being discarded at any moment. Given my attitude, they'd probably end up buried like the slave hunters, rotting into skeleton materials. So she made a move. She told a companion named Suishin, a heart speaker who could understand and speak the human language, to pass along a message. She was willing to work for me and asked to be given tasks. Suishin, don't. The human will use you, her companions warned, terrified of humans after what the slave hunters did to their people. If he wanted to, we couldn't resist anyway, Suishin said bluntly. They had no choice in the matter. If it comes to that, I'll bear the duty of a spirit cat warrior and protect Suwa. Protect everyone, Suishin told her worried sister, then brought Suishin along to see me. Audrey stopped them before they reached my brick house. She'd taken on the role of my guardian knight, whether I needed one or not, and she wasn't letting anyone get close without reason. Suishin explained they wanted to meet with me. Audrey was fascinated by Suishin's ability to communicate without speaking. She's a heart speaker whose mental voice crosses language barriers. Audrey asked what they wanted, and Suishin relayed Suishin's wish to serve me and work for me. Audrey told them to wait and came to ask me. Bring them over, I said. I wasn't going to keep feeding people who contribute nothing. The fact that the cat girl had the resolve to come offer herself was a good sign. You want to serve me? I looked at them steadily, sipping tea. Suishin stepped forward and bowed. A broken spirit rune glowed on her forehead, and I could sense supernatural energy gathering in her body. She's a spirit rune warrior, a tradition of the spirit cat tribe that combines magic runes with night combat. She hasn't reached first rank yet, but even an apprentice spirit rune warrior is stronger than a regular apprentice knight because they wield supernatural power. Audrey kept her hand on her sword the whole time, ready to strike if Suishin tried anything. After the demonstration, I waved Suishin closer. She came without resistance. When I reached out to test her obedience, she let out a quiet whimper but didn't fight back. She cooperated completely. You have resolve, I said, pulling my hand back. She'd clearly prepared herself mentally before coming. She was fully obedient. I don't mind having more life in the camp. I can endure loneliness to grow stronger in secret, but that doesn't mean I prefer being alone. The fact that I let Audrey come to the Odyssey with me shows I need some human connection. I'm not some twisted necromancer who wants to spend his life surrounded only by skeletons. I enjoy living company. From today, those girls are under your management. Teach them the human language. Next time you report to me, I don't want you needing a translator. I gave Suishin her first assignment and waved them both out so I could get back to work. Mediv, you definitely enjoyed that just now. Do mine. Audrey sidled up to me the moment they left. Was her interest not obvious enough? Couldn't I respect first come, first served? Don't worry. When I'm free, you're first on my list, I said with a small smile. The camp was nearly complete, and the skeleton numbers were solid. Things weren't as desperate as when I first arrived, so I'd loosened up a little. Audrey nodded happily and left without disturbing me further. Back in the warehouse, Suishin didn't tell the others about the obedience test. She just said she'd earned my approval. But her younger sister Suehua noticed the signs on her clothes and asked if she'd been mistreated. I'm fine. I'll protect Suehua, Suexiang said with a smile. She knew that day was inevitable. It was just a matter of when I'd take interest. She'd made her peace with it. For her sister and her people, she'd do what needed doing. Audrey came by later to start teaching the tribal girls the human language. She was the only other human in camp, and I was too busy with skeletons, so the job fell to her. The girls were mostly spirit cat tribe, 15 of them. Then 6 spirit fox girls and 4 spirit rabbit girls. Their supernatural traditions are similar, spirit rune warriors and caster types. Out of 25, only Suexiang had actual combat training as an apprentice spirit rune warrior. Others had special talents. Suexin as a heart speaker, Suehua with knowledge of herbs and medicine, but they hadn't inherited supernatural power yet. That's not unusual. After the necromantic catastrophe, the world went through the War of Gods, then the Twilight of the Gods, then the Great War of all races. Centuries of constant warfare destroyed traditions everywhere, not just for necromancers, but for human knights, mages, and every other race's supernatural paths. They say supernatural beings used to be everywhere. Now even a first-rank fighter is someone worth respecting. In the whole Odyssey region, you barely see any supernatural fighters. That's how far every race has fallen. Half a month later, at the start of mid-September, 5 months since I left Lorland City, the south wall of the fortress camp finally closed. The last section connected at the south gate, and the camp was fully enclosed. In 5 months, I'd gone from sleeping in the open wilderness to owning a walled fortress with a real foundation. Inside my camp, the skeleton forces had grown again. 72 gray bone skeletons, 56 white bone skeletons, and 88 green bone skeletons. Among the green bone skeletons, 4 were first-rank bone spirit warriors. Combined with me and Audrey as first-rank knights, the camp wasn't the top power in the Odyssey, but nobody could push us around easily. Suexiang, are there any ancient battlefields nearby? I asked. My skeletons have different professions, and skeleton farmers are far weaker fighters than skeleton warriors of the same age. Strength matters most in the Odyssey. Without enough military power, nothing else matters. All 3 ruin sites I'd found were abandoned villages, mostly producing farmer remains. I needed a battlefield to get warrior bones, maybe even remains of knights or mages. I had no time to research Odyssey war history before being exiled. Audrey didn't know anything either. The only way to learn was from the natives. One of the reasons I kept those tribal women. There's a battlefield nearby where cat tribe ancestors fought, Suexiang said in stumbling human language. She didn't use Suexin as a translator this time, showing me her progress. The spirit cat tribe had migrated through this area, and she'd heard elders talk about their past. Good. We leave after dark, I said, pleasantly surprised. I have real strength now, but that's no reason to show off. Skeletons marching in daylight attract attention, and fighting random thugs gives me nothing. I need aged remains, not fresh blessed corpses. Unnecessary battles should be avoided. Quiet farming is the way. At dusk, I left 2 bone spirit warriors and some green bones to guard the camp. I took Audrey, Suexiang, and the rest northeast. Night fell quickly. Darkness belongs to beasts and nocturnal races. Thugs all hide in shelters. The battlefield was only about 10 kilometers away. Skeletons don't tire, so at a jog we arrived in just over an hour. According to Suexiang, this battle happened over 250 years ago. The Givort Federation hadn't fully pulled out of the Odyssey yet, and a retreating army ran into the migrating spirit cat tribe. A brutal encounter broke out. It devastated the cat tribe. They still haven't recovered. I pushed my necromantic power into the ground to scan. Suexiang's memory was spot on. My spirit vision lit up with dense clusters of remains packed into shallow earth. Neither side won that battle. Both the cat tribe and the Federation army were badly mauled. They barely buried their dead before retreating. I marked digging spots and set the skeletons to work. Bones came up fast, all stripped of belongings, but I don't care about grave goods. I care about the bones. I tested a few with my spell. Every one produced top-grade green bone parts over 250 years old. This was an excellent sight. Then something different happened. One casting produced a spirit cat warrior arm bone. I'd processed cat tribe bones before, but they always turned into regular human skeleton parts. This one had spirit runes on its surface. The supernatural power of a spirit rune warrior had kept its cat tribe characteristics intact. It wasn't a one-time thing. I kept finding spirit cat warrior parts, spirit cat sorcerer parts, and also human knight parts and human mage parts. That encounter must have killed many supernatural fighters on both sides. For months, I'd only processed ordinary people's bones. I was dying to see what supernatural skeleton warriors would look like. I held my excitement and refined as many bones as I could until 4:30 in the morning, when my magic ran dry. I had the skeletons load the remaining bones onto carts, and we slipped back to camp before dawn. The moment I got home, I started meditating to recover. Once my magic was back, I picked out a set of spirit cat warrior parts and began revival. It was brutally hard. I hadn't struggled this much in a long time, drenched in sweat, pushing to my absolute limit. But the reward was sweet. When the spirit cat warrior stood up, the spring of time feedback washed over me. When I opened my eyes, my magic was fully restored and my mental strength had jumped significantly. I was much closer to becoming a high-level mage student. A few more revivals like this, and I'd break through. I examined my creation. The Greenbone Spirit Cat Warrior wore bone armor and had a much slimmer build than human warriors, clearly an agility fighter. Its weapons, retractable three-blade bone claws on both hands, a single-edged claw knife at its waist, and a short crossbow on its back. The most striking feature was the spirit runes on its forehead and body. It was a spirit rune skeleton with the cat tribe's unique spirit cat power. When it channeled that power, the bone claws became incredibly sharp. The energy could also enhance its knife, crossbow, and armor. This spirit cat warrior was just below first rank, an apprentice supernatural, one step from breaking through. I compared its forehead runes carefully with what I'd seen on Suexiang. The skeleton's runes were far more complete than hers. That told me everything. That ancient battle didn't just kill the cat tribe's warriors. It destroyed much of their supernatural heritage. That's the real reason the spirit cat tribe never recovered. Lord Mediv, that's exactly right. Suexiang confirmed when I called her over. She stared at the spirit cat warrior skeleton with amazement and admitted this was why her tribe declined. Suexiang came too. Under my guidance, she used her heart voice ability to communicate with the spirit cat warrior. The skeleton's mental strength isn't strong enough to speak or cross language barriers on its own. I can give skeletons commands through my spiritual link, but that's not the same as having a conversation. Real mages can cast language spells to talk with anyone. I'm a half-baked mage who only knows skeletal revival with zero magical knowledge beyond that. With Suexiang translating, the spirit cat warrior shared the tribal spirit runes and combat techniques preserved in its bones. We copied everything down. Only a spirit cat sorcerer knows how to inscribe heritage runes onto warriors, Suexiang said. They were thrilled to have more complete runes, but quickly hit a wall. None of the girls was a sorcerer apprentice who could actually inscribe them onto Suexiang. Going back to the cat tribe wasn't realistic. I wouldn't let them leave with my secrets. There will be one, I said, glancing at the spirit cat sorcerer bone parts on my work table. Suexiang and Suexiang lit up. They believed I could create another miracle. Suexiang stepped forward and took my hand, letting me feel her gratitude. Suexiang smiled and came over to massage my shoulders. They'd shifted from passively accepting their fate to actively chasing it. The camp was doing well enough now that I didn't mind relaxing a little. If I didn't need to save energy for reviving skeletons, those two wouldn't have gone back so quickly. After resting, I attempted to revive the spirit cat sorcerer parts. It was far harder than the warrior. Even at full power, I couldn't complete it. I realized I needed to reach high-level mage student first. One failure is nothing. I meditated until I recovered, then tried a set of human knight bones instead. Still very difficult, but easier than the sorcerer. I pushed through and succeeded. What stood up was a flame skeleton knight. Fire attribute combat aura radiated from its body, heating the air in the room. Like the spirit cat warrior, it was just one step below first rank. But this was unusual. It had attribute-enhanced combat aura before even reaching first rank. In today's world, breathing techniques that produce elemental aura are considered high-tier heritage. Neither my privately collected techniques nor Audrey's family method can produce attribute aura. I called Suexiang over immediately. Through heart-voice communication, we copied the flame aura breathing technique. the first volume, and 3 flame combat skills from the Skeleton Knight. This is the power of history. Lost traditions reborn through my skeletons. It was only the first volume because the original owner only inherited that much. Still, the first volume alone is enough to train up to a 3rd rank knight. My old breathing technique couldn't even reach 2nd rank. Audrey's family technique only covered part of the first volume. She'd hit a dead end at 1st rank. She started retraining with the flame technique immediately. I held off on switching. My main path is the mage road. Spending time on knight training now would be a distraction. After resting, I went through the battlefield bones, refining parts from suspected spirit cat warriors and human knights. Whenever I completed a full set, I'd meditate to peak condition and revive them. After a week of intense work, I had 2 more spirit cat warriors and 1 more skeleton knight. Each cat warrior had slightly different heritage runes, further completing the tribe's lost tradition. Suishin recorded all 6 combat techniques from the 3 warriors. The 2nd knight was identical to the first, same flame breathing technique, same skills. Reviving these 3 supernatural skeletons pushed my mental strength past the threshold. In the spring of time feedback, I naturally advanced to high-level mage student. From first learning the meditation technique to reaching high level, less than 6 months. Students at the academy struggle for 3 or 4 years to get here. The spring of time is the ultimate training resource. After calming my surging magic, I prepared to attempt the Spirit Cat Sorcerer again. I took out the same set that failed before and focused everything I had. It was incredibly grueling. Sweat poured down my face. Even as a high-level student, reviving a high-age greenbone sorcerer pushed me to the edge, but it didn't exceed my limit. I completed the revival. When the Spirit Cat Sorcerer stood up, the spring of time erupted in my mental space. My nearly drained spirit was nourished, my magic rushed back. One moment I was pale and exhausted. The next I felt completely refreshed. I admired my creation. The sorcerer's bones were dark green like the warriors and knights, but different in texture, crystalline and mystical rather than heavy like iron jade. It's a caster type, similar to a human mage. No heritage runes on its forehead. Instead, it carried a spirit cat bone staff. Like the other top-grade green bone skeletons, it stood just below 1st rank, 1 step from breaking through. I called Suishin in to communicate with the spirit cat sorcerer through her heart voice. Lord Mediv, he's willing to teach me the cat tribe's sorcerer heritage, Suishin cried out excitedly. With my permission, the sorcerer passed down the cat tribe's sorcerer cultivation method and the technique for inscribing heritage spirit runes. Afterward, we cross-referenced the sorcerer's runes with what Suishin had recorded from the warriors, further completing the lost tradition. The sorcerer used its bone staff like a pen and filled in the missing lines on the 3 spirit cat warriors' runes. Once completed, all 3 warriors crossed the threshold and advanced to 1st-rank spirit rune warriors. Like the bone spirit warriors before them, they also awakened bone spirit energy upon reaching 1st rank. With 2 types of supernatural power, spirit rune force and bone spirit energy, these cat warriors are far stronger than regular bone spirit warriors who only have 1. The sorcerer couldn't fix Suixiang's runes directly. Living flesh requires special materials for inscription, so that job would fall to Suishin once she mastered the technique. Lord Mediv, could the other cat girls in camp also receive the sorcerer and rune heritage? Suishin asked carefully while massaging my shoulders. Yes, bring them over, I agreed. Having all the cat girls become supernatural would strengthen the camp. Suixiang and Suishin drilled the others beforehand, hammering in that I am their master and that nobody should show any resistance. They understood that one person angering me could ruin things for all of them and destroy the cat tribe's chance at revival. The cat girls lined up before me. I scanned them and picked one out, a girl with a small golden bell on her neck. That was Suihua. She glanced at Suixiang, who gave her an encouraging look. Heart pounding, she stepped forward and accepted my obedience test without any resistance. I was satisfied with her attitude and her gentle eyes. Go test her, I said, releasing her. I'd been quietly watching the other girls' micro-expressions. Suixiang and Suishin's preparation was thorough. I saw no resentment or defiance. Out of 15 cat girls, only Suishin and Suihua, who'd shown talent with herbal medicine since childhood, tested positive for sorcerer talent. Just like with humans, caster talent is extremely rare among the spirit cat tribe. Suehua received the sorcerer heritage. The other cat girls would get their combat runes inscribed once Suexin and Suehua mastered the technique. You have a good eye, I told Suehua with a smile, praising myself for the random pick turning out so well. Hearing my compliment, Suehua's knees went weak. Her eyes misted over. I didn't tease the sentimental little cat any further and waved everyone out so I could get back to work. With the spirit cat sorcerer revived, I'd used up all my matched sets of supernatural bone parts. I didn't rush out for a second excavation. The camp needed more regular skeletons too. For the next week, I stayed in the brick house refining parts and reviving ordinary skeletons. As a high-level mage student now, my efficiency had jumped significantly. 2 new skeleton types appeared: skeleton rangers with bone armor, longbows, and short swords, and skeleton assassins with bone armor, twin daggers, and arm-mounted crossbows. Every couple of weeks, I inspect the camp's construction progress. The tireless skeletons are the best workers imaginable. Beyond the core castle zone and outer walls, each grid square gets 2 sets of back-to-back buildings. The 12 squares surrounding the core are being built up now as a fortress zone. Once those close up, my living area will sit inside double walls. Outside the fortress zone is the residential zone, and the outermost ring will be the city wall zone with tall fortress walls. Everything connects through overhead corridors. The entire district is one integrated defense system. Basically, my planned city is a massive pile of interconnected small fortresses with maximum defense. In 2 weeks, the camp gained 3 spirit cat warriors, 2 skeleton knights, 1 spirit cat sorcerer, plus 72 gray bone, 36 white bone, and 24 green bone regular skeletons. I focused on gray and white bones to speed up construction. Total skeleton count, 354, including 10 supernatural skeletons, 7 of which are first rank. This is a formidable force, a foundation I built from nothing. After filling out the regular ranks, it was time to raise quality again. That evening, I led a large group of skeletons with carts back to the Spirit Cat battlefield for a second excavation and hauled every last bone back to camp. The fox and rabbit girls noticed the changes in the cat girls. They offered me information about ancient battlefields too, but those sites were far away. I'd get to them later. The morning after the excavation, Audrey was lying in the warm sunlight streaming through my window, giggling lazily. I'd been in a great mood after bringing back all those bones, and I finally made good on my promise to her. She'd been the first, her fantasy come true. She snuggled against me playfully like a lazy cat in the sun. I smiled, stretched, got up, and went back to work. Audrey was considerate. She didn't disturb me. After her daily training, she put on her armor and rode through camp on patrol. "Good morning, little sister Suexiang," she called out, hopping off her horse. There was unmistakable pride in her eyes. Being my first meant everything to her in terms of status. Suexiang and Suexin had been eager lately, but what I'd shared with them so far was lighter. The real milestone was with Audrey. "Sister Audrey, good day." Suexiang was surprised by the new title, then smiled. She understood. Audrey's position in camp was beyond question, and this shift in how Audrey addressed her was encouragement to keep serving me well. While Audrey taught the girls language lessons, I focused on refining bones. I prioritized suspected spirit rune warrior remains to create more spirit cat skeleton warriors. Each one revives just under first rank, but once their heritage runes are completed, they cross that threshold immediately. Over the next 2 weeks, I revived 5 more spirit cat warriors and another spirit cat sorcerer. They brought the tribe's recovered heritage runes from 6 combat techniques to 9, and the sorcerer tradition grew richer. All 5 warriors advanced to first rank after their runes were completed. I also used the ordinary cat tribe bones to produce 36 green bone combat skeletons, warriors, rangers, and assassins. Things were going well. Without the desperate pressure of my early days, I allowed myself some relaxation between refining sessions. Sometimes with Audrey, sometimes with Suexiang and Suexin, sometimes with the sentimental little cat Suehua. "Suehua, what's the story behind your bell?" I asked one day, playing with the small golden bell on her neck. Its chiming during our time together had been quite pleasant. "Suexiang gave it to me," she said warmly. "When I was little, I kept running off to play. She was afraid I'd get lost, so she tied a bell around my neck. Whenever it rang, she could find me. That's also how the slave hunters caught Suexiang. She followed the bell's sound looking for her captured sister. Suehua glanced at Suexiang sleeping beside us, exhausted, and smiled softly. Her sister always tried to shield her, but sometimes Suehua didn't need protecting. After hearing their story, I stretched and went to inspect the camp's construction. With over 300 skeletons working around the clock, progress was fast. The fortress zone's outer buildings were over 70% done. A few more days would complete them. After that, I'd skip the residential zone and go straight to building the outer city walls. Still not enough workers, I muttered. The camp's military strength was solid now. 12 first-rank skeletons, me and Audrey, for sub-rank supernatural skeletons, and hundreds of regulars. I decided to mass-produce gray and white bone construction workers to finish the first city district quickly. Military and development had to move in parallel. Once the first district was done, I could start fencing off land for farming and livestock. Time skeletons can grow, and magical beast blood helps them reach supernatural rank. Eventually, I'd build enclosures to raise magical beasts. I'd also grow crops and herd cattle and sheep for food. And bones can be farmed too. As an archaeologist in my past life, I know how to preserve remains properly. Every thug and raider killed over these months was carefully buried in designated areas. Those fresh bodies would gain historical depth over the years. Someday my territory would have dedicated burial enclosures where corpses accumulate age underground. When the time was right, I'd harvest them: gray bone, white bone, green, blue, purple, or higher. With my goals clear, I threw myself into mass-producing gray and white bone skeletons. As a high-level mage student, I could refine dozens per day. Camp numbers grew rapidly. On the 5th day, the fortress zone's outer ring of double fortress buildings closed up, wrapping the castle area in double walls. The brick factory expanded several times now, ran day and night producing large bricks for city walls. The moment skeletons finished the fortress zone, they moved straight to digging foundations for the outer wall. I'd already laid out every detail in my plans. They just had to follow the blueprints. Why is the sky turning gray? One morning I was standing on the watchtower overlooking the camp when I noticed the distant sky going hazy. It wasn't windy enough for a sandstorm. I called Suexiang up to ask. Her face went serious. That gray sky wasn't weather, it was blood mosquitoes swarming. These are giant mosquitoes with magical beast bloodlines, with razor-sharp mouths and claws. A swarm can drain a person into a dried husk in seconds. They normally breed in swamps north of the Odyssey. When their population gets big enough, they swarm out and sweep across everything. Nothing is safe. Thugs, tribes, animals, all equal prey. Suexiang experienced one as a child. Her tribe hid in tunnels. When she came out, she saw horrifying skin and bone corpses everywhere. Unlucky tribe members and all their livestock. That image haunted her generation for years. After the swarm passed came famine. Hunters found no game. Starving humans and tribes attacked anyone for food. Her parents died defending the tribe during that famine. I wasn't worried. My camp runs on skeletons. Blood mosquitoes can't suck bones. When the swarm hits, the living people just need to shelter in the underground vault we've been building under the castle zone. Before the mosquitoes arrived, the sky turned yellow from a different cause. Dust clouds kicked up by stampeding animals fleeing the swarm. Suexiang reminded me this was prime hunting time. After the swarm passes, game becomes scarce, so stockpiling food now would prevent hardship during the coming famine. I sent my supernatural skeletons out to hunt the fleeing animals. Seen from above, predators and herbivores were running side by side in perfect harmony. Anything too slow got swallowed by the gray cloud behind them. Even magical beasts were fleeing. Most low-rank ones can't survive the swarm either. Nature has its balance, though. Colorful birds dove into the swarm, eating mosquitoes. Armored ground beasts licked them up with long tongues. Fish leaped from water to snatch them. These natural predators keep the swarm in check. Once mosquito numbers drop enough, the survivors retreat to their breeding grounds, and the disaster ends. The hunt lasted 5 days. We killed wild animals for meat and captured tameable herbivores alive for future ranching, part of my agricultural plans. Magical beasts were smart enough to sense my supernatural skeletons and avoided the camp entirely. No magical beast meat this time. Then the yellow dust cleared, and the gray fog rolled in. The swarm had arrived. Audrey, the tribal girls, and I retreated to the underground fortress. Above ground, only skeletons remained. Just as I expected, the mosquitoes couldn't do anything to Bones. I had the skeletons hunt mosquitoes using every method available. Massive numbers died. Then I discovered something valuable. Blood mosquitoes carry magical beast bloodline, and their blood works just like the cold-horned deer's blood for helping time skeletons grow. The skeletons went into a hunting frenzy. They even set out buckets of stored blood as bait to lure mosquitoes in. Bloodsuckers getting their blood sucked by skeletons, a wonderful bit of irony. Magical beasts are smart about survival. A herd of bull-type magical beasts being chased by the swarm noticed my camp was killing mosquitoes and came close, hoping for protection. They were a whole clan, mostly regular animals with some magical beast blood, plus a few true first-rank magical beasts. Magical-grade mosquitoes were hunting them, and they were on the edge of being wiped out. Obey or die, I told them. I saw a chance for sustainable development. Keep this herd alive and farm their magical blood continuously. I had Suaishin use her heart voice to negotiate with the herd's leader. It refused at first. I left them to the mosquitoes for a while. Facing death, the leader finally bowed and accepted my terms. Once the deal was made, my supernatural skeletons went out and scattered the magical mosquitoes, killing several. Seeing my camp's strength firsthand, the beast leader didn't dare rebel. It stayed put in the designated area. I had skeletons deliver fresh grass to feed the exhausted herd. After securing the beast clan, my skeletons kept trapping and draining mosquitoes, absorbing their blood to grow stronger. The blood mosquitoes weren't stupid. After losing too many near my camp, they started avoiding it. But they're not as clever as humans. I sent supernatural skeleton squads out into the wasteland with sealed buckets of blood as bait, running guerrilla operations to lure and kill them. Only a few combat teams went hunting at a time while others guarded the camp, watching for surprise attacks and keeping the bull herd in line. Non-combat skeletons spent the disaster either collecting remains of creatures killed by the swarm or building walls and underground vaults. I never stopped working either, refining bones non-stop in the underground fortress. The mosquito plague lasted over a month. In those 2 months total, I produced 325 gray bone skeletons, 236 white bones, and 164 green bones. Among the green bones were 6 new supernatural skeletons, 4 flame skeleton knights, 1 earth skeleton knight, and 1 flame skeleton mage. Through Suaishin's heart voice, I extracted historical knowledge from each supernatural skeleton. The flame-breathing technique stayed at Volume 1, but flame combat skills grew from 3 to 5. The Earth Knight gave me a whole new Earth aura-breathing technique, plus 3 Earth skills. The flame skeleton mage was the real prize. It carried a fire skull staff in one hand and a magical bone book in the other. The book contained 5 fire spells and 3 universal spells. I can't learn fire magic, but universal spells work for any mage. The flame mage's mental strength was strong enough to talk with me directly, no translator needed. Under its teaching, I learned 3 universal spells: Cleanse, Mage's Grip, and Magic Shield. Cleanse just removes dust. Mage's Grip lets me grab small objects with mental force, nothing lethal yet. Magic Shield creates a protective barrier from magic power. With these 3 spells, I finally started looking like a proper mage. During the mosquito plague, my skeletons absorbed massive amounts of magical beast blood from their kills. Every supernatural skeleton that hadn't yet reached first rank crossed that threshold. 6 skeleton warriors, 3 rangers, 2 assassins, and 1 farmer also awakened bone spirit energy and became first rank. 8 months into my time as a pioneer, my camp passed 1,000 skeletons, 469 gray, 328 white, 290 normal green, and 34 supernatural green. 1,000 tireless workers meant incredible building speed. The north city wall was complete, east and west walls were over half done, and the south wall was at 30%. About 1 more month, and the entire outer wall would close up. After a month of rest, the bull herd had recovered. I sent supernatural skeletons to collect blood. The herd panicked at first, seeing dozens of first-rank skeletons approaching, but they calmed down when they realized we only wanted a little blood, not beef. The herd leader made a relieved sound, blood they could spare. I named them great horn bulls. Regular ones stand 4 meters at the shoulder and 5 meters long. The first-rank magical beasts are 6 meters tall and 8 meters long, like living tanks. 74 survived to my camp, 5 of them true magical beasts. The blood from 5 magical bulls awakened bone spirit energy in 2 high-age greenbone rangers, promoting them to first rank. This is sustainable, roughly 1 blood harvest per month, 2 new supernatural skeletons each time. I left the ordinary bulls alone, hoping more would awaken their magical bloodlines and give me additional blood sources. After each harvest, I rewarded the herd with premium grass. After the plague, food was scarce across the Odyssey. Most wildlife had been killed or fled. But my camp was unaffected. My army is skeletons that don't eat. The only mouths to feed are me, Audrey, the tribal girls, and the livestock. The animals eat grass from the plains. During the swarm, we'd hunted huge numbers of fleeing beasts and stored the meat in an underground freezer I built using the coldhorn deer's magic core. At our consumption rate, that stockpile would last years. Food shortage is a problem that simply doesn't exist for us. After 2 months of nonstop refining, my bone reserves were running low. No large burial sites nearby to dig up, so I had some free time. I decided to switch my night breathing technique. After comparing options, I chose the Earth Aura breathing method. Earth nurtures history, fitting for an archaeologist. Earth Aura is known for strong defense, and as a mage, stacking defenses makes me nearly untouchable. I used blood from magical-grade mosquitoes I'd collected during the plague. With that potent material, I quickly converted my regular combat aura into Earth Aura. The difference was immediate. I could feel my defense skyrocket when the aura was active. As a necromancer, fighting personally is beneath me. Let the skeletons do the fighting while I focus on staying alive. I didn't rush to learn the 3 Earth combat skills. Those take time. Coming out of training, I climbed the stairs. I live in the central tower of the castle zone now. The old brick house is history. On the 7th floor, I found Audrey leaning on the terrace railing, watching the wall construction. A gust of wind swept her dress, outlining her figure beautifully. I walked up behind her and put my hands on her shoulders. She started to turn around, but I told her not to. She understood instantly. This matched one of her many fantasies perfectly. She played her part, shouting dramatic protests that only made the whole thing more exciting. Afterward, she curled up against me like a contented cat. "You little minx," I said, smiling. She always finds ways to make things thrilling. She was already scheming which fantasy to bring to life next. Meanwhile, at Winterhold Fortress, people were plotting to exploit the Odyssey's misery. A representative from the Vincent family approached Marquis Justin, the fortress commander, proposing they ship grain into the Odyssey during the coming famine and sell it at enormous profit. Starving thugs would trade everything they owned for food. Justin demanded his cut. They haggled. The Vincent rep started at 90-10 in his family's favor. Justin countered with 90-10 in his own favor. They eventually settled at 70-30, Justin's side taking 70. He needed to share with other fortress families and reward soldiers. The grain would arrive in 7 days, but wouldn't be shipped out immediately. They'd wait until the thugs were desperate enough to pay anything. One evening while Audrey and I were walking the camp, we found Sui Xiang standing on the fortress wall, staring into the distance. "Homesick?" Audrey asked, patting her. "Yes," Sui Xiang admitted. "I'm worried about the spirit cat tribe." She'd lived through a mosquito plague as a child and knew what the famine afterward looked like. She was afraid her people didn't have enough food stored and that starving raiders might attack them. "If only the spirit cat tribe belonged to you, Lord Mediv," she said wistfully. She meant it. After seeing me restore lost heritage from ancient bones, she believed I was the cat tribe's best hope for becoming strong again. "Not yet," I said, smiling. "My camp has strength, but conquering a tribe with generations of history isn't simple. The recovered traditions are tempting bait, but without enough military power to back it up, I'd end up their prisoner instead of their lord." Sui Xiang had been sharing information about her tribe's situation with me privately. "When the camp's foundation is strong enough, I'll grant her wish and bring the spirit cat tribe under my banner." After the mosquito swarm retreated, the Odyssey turned tense immediately. Groups with fixed territories fortified their defenses and sent fighters out scavenging for every scrap of food. Wandering thugs robbed anyone they met. Some hoarder-type refugees dug underground shelters, planning to hide like moles until the worst of the famine passed. I'd already cleared out any threats near the camp, but as panic spread across the Odyssey, thugs from other areas started drifting our way. To them, a necromancer camp guarded by skeletons meant easy pickings. Necromancy is synonymous with weakness in this era. They charged in howling, expecting to crush 1,000 skeletons with ease. These are necromancer skeletons? No way. They couldn't believe it when my green bone skeletons cut them down effortlessly. Their swords bounced off green bone like nothing. One strike back and they dropped dead. Every single one died with disbelief on their face. Had the world updated while they were wandering the wasteland? Had necromancers returned to their former glory? Nobody answered their questions. Their angry spirits tried to form into ghosts, but the God of Light's last rites blessing dissolved them into nothing before they could take shape. Under that blessing, corpses don't get to become undead. Their bodies were processed and buried in my designated cemetery zone, where they'd accumulate age underground until I'm ready to use them someday. The real famine hadn't even started yet. This was just the preview. The groups attacking me were small-time, with no supernatural fighters. Not worth my attention. The skeletons handled everything while construction continued at full speed. My daily schedule was packed, refining skeletons, meditating, practicing universal spells, training combat aura and earth skills. And every evening I'd unwind. Audrey with her wild fantasies, or the cat girls with their different charms. While the rest of the Odyssey tore itself apart fighting over scraps, I sat in my tower drinking fruit wine and eating roasted meat. After half a year of nonstop work, I'd earned some comfort. I still had my combat skeletons searching for ancient settlement ruins. My bone reserves were getting low and I needed new excavation sites. Out in the Odyssey, things got worse fast. Roaming thugs who lived by raiding never stockpiled food. With no game to hunt after the mosquito plague, they could only dig up roots or rob others. They weren't the type to stomach bitter roots and bugs. After some chaotic infighting, the thug gangs started banding together. Robbing each other was pointless. Nobody had food. They formed alliances and attacked established camps and tribal settlements that had farms and livestock. Nobody knew when wildlife would return. The famine could last indefinitely. Veterans of past famines knew that eventually even roots and insects run out, and people start eating corpses, even their own kind. Defenders fought desperately, some winning, some losing. The Odyssey's population kept shrinking. Meanwhile, about 2 weeks after the mosquitoes retreated, the Vincent family from the Federation brought grain to the Winterhold Canyon entrance, escorted by fortress soldiers. They didn't dare enter the Odyssey itself. Starving people have no reason left. At the canyon, the military presence kept thugs in check. When word spread, thugs flooded in. At first they balked at the outrageous prices. The merchants weren't worried. Hunger would break them. Within days, thugs started trading, more and more each day, handing over everything of value for grain. Then madness overtook fear. One day the thugs snapped and attacked the merchant camp. The soldiers held at first, but when someone slashed open a grain sack and golden wheat poured out, the frenzy became unstoppable. Starving thugs charged in feeling no pain. The commanding general read the situation and ordered retreat, abandoning the remaining grain to save his men and the collected money. The bloody grain was snatched up instantly. The thugs chased the retreating soldiers, wanting their rations and their money back. The army fought a running retreat until reinforcements from Winterhold arrived and scattered the mob. Absolute lunatics. The general and merchants cursed. They'd collected plenty of wealth early on, but they'd underestimated the desperation and overstayed. The dead soldiers meant trouble with the noble council. The money they'd earned might not even cover the political fallout. They'd played their usual noble game in a lawless land and gotten burned badly. Strange, it's been so quiet for 2 weeks, Audrey said from the outer wall during her patrol. In the first half-month after the mosquitoes left, we had attacks almost daily. Then nothing. She didn't know the thugs had been lured away by the Vincent family's grain sale near Winterhold Canyon. Our camp is too remote for that news to reach us. It didn't matter to me either way. Killing thugs gives me nothing. Quiet development is what I need. In the months since the swarm retreated, my skeletons worked day and night and completed the city walls on all 4 sides. The walls aren't grand, 16 meters tall, 6 meters thick, But that's more than enough for the Odyssey. Wall height matters less than who's standing on top. Without strong defenders, even a 30-meter wall won't stop anyone. Now the only way in or out is through the 4 directional gates. Skeleton soldiers patrol the walls constantly. Nobody's climbing over unnoticed. With the walls closed, I had my first real city district. I officially named it Kurd. Kurd won't stop at one district. The brick factories keep expanding, and new block zones will be built and connected over time. West of the city walls, the area where skeletons have been digging clay for bricks, is my planned reservoir zone. That wasn't random digging. I designed it from the start. It'll become a 4x4 grid of 16 deep square ponds, nearly 200 meters across each, with raised embankment roads between them. The reservoir supplies drinking water, irrigation for nearby farms, and can produce fish. My grand plan is a 9-square grid centered on Kurd. East and west squares are reservoir zones. The south square is a cemetery zone. The north square is a manufacturing zone with the brick factories. The 4 corner squares will be 3 farming zones and 1 livestock zone. Every large square gets its own ring of city walls with double-row buildings, outer defensive walls, and inner barracks for combat and support skeletons. Between squares are 100-meter-wide main roads that double as kill zones. If enemies march down these roads, they get attacked from both sides. Underground corridors connect the squares for troop movement during sieges. 9 squares forming one connected fortress with its own water, farmland, pastures, and manufacturing. Once complete, Kurd can't be starved out by siege. I know why I build this way. Dying unexpectedly in my past life, losing my parents young in this one, being schemed against by family. Deep down I crave security. My fortress design, my choice of earth aura for defense, it all reflects that. And my talent supports it perfectly. As long as I stay alive, I keep getting stronger. The longer I live, the more time skeletons I'll have, and the more powerful they'll become. This past month, I didn't slack on training. After using up the battlefield bones, I refined skeletons from ordinary village remains, 165 gray, 124 white, and 52 green. All common types, no supernatural finds. I also learned 2 earth combat skills. Earth Split Slash is an attack that combines ground-shaking force with a blade wave. At higher levels, it can tear enemies apart from below. Mountain Rock Stance is pure defense, coating the body in earth aura like stone skin. Mastered fully, it makes you immovable as a mountain. Both require much higher night cultivation to reach full potential. The third skill, Boulder Charge, is a shield rush technique I haven't learned yet. A week after the Vincent family got robbed, the thugs who'd gathered at Winterhold Canyon ate through their stolen food and scattered back into the Odyssey in large groups. Some attacked known camps and tribes. Others wandered along the Winterhold mountain range, trying to hunt in the foothills. But those forests belong to tribal territories and powerful magical beasts. Driven away repeatedly, a huge mob of thugs drifted eastward along the mountains. "There's a town here." They stared in shock when Kurd came into view. Then their eyes lit up and they charged toward it. Compared to Winterhold Fortress, this little walled town looked like easy plunder. Anyone who could build something this nice must be rich and well-fed. "Huh, it's a skeleton town." They laughed when they saw my skeletons returning through the gates from outside work. "Stupid skeletons, they can't even close the gate." The thugs chased my skeletons into the city, whistling and laughing. They thought the skeletons were too brainless to shut the doors behind them. They were wrong. I let them in on purpose. Once they were inside, they spotted the fortress zone in the center with its own 10-meter walls. They figured that was the prize, take the castle, win the town. They charged forward, eyes locked on the center, completely missing the city gates closing behind them. Shut the door, trap the dogs. When they entered range, I gave the order. Over 200 skeleton hunters and rangers on the fortress walls fired together. Arrows rained down. The thugs had no decent armor. Screams filled the air. My high-age greenbone rangers could punch arrows through quality leather armor, and almost no thug wears heavy plate. "Don't get cocky." Their night-level leaders roared and charged forward, erupting with combat aura, planning to scale the walls in a few steps. Flame Slash. My supernatural skeletons met them head-on. Fire Skeleton Knights, Bone Spirit Warriors, and Spirit Rune Warriors intercepted every single one. Dozens of supernatural skeletons swarmed the thug knights. How are there so many supernatural skeletons? Is this a high-rank necromancer? The thug knights panicked. They realized necromancy might be a bottom-tier profession, but someone who reached high rank in it would still be terrifying. The last rite's blessing limits what materials necromancers can use, but it doesn't suppress the necromancer's own power. My lord will serve you. Spare us. They begged as regular skeletons closed in from every direction, cutting down ordinary thugs like wheat. I didn't answer. The moment they stepped into Kurd, their death warrants were signed. I have loyal supernatural skeletons. These treacherous thugs are worthless to me. Every single one died. Men, women, all of them. Over 2,000. I watched from the central tower, calm as still water. Killing 2,000 thugs felt like slaughtering 2,000 pigs. No emotional impact whatsoever. I have a soul far more mature than my age. This is a world where the weak get eaten. When it's time to be cold-blooded, mercy has no place. Audrey was the same. She came to brag about her kill count. No squeamishness from the cat girls either. They grew up in the Odyssey and are used to blood. The bodies were processed and buried in the cemetery zone to accumulate age underground. Kurd returned to quiet, efficient operation as if nothing happened. Those thugs were the entire eastward-moving mob. After wiping them out, Kurd was forgotten again. The Odyssey raged with violence while my city sat in peaceful contrast. Another month passed. I learned the last Earth combat skill, Boulder Charge, a shield rush technique. I directed the excavation of several more residential ruins and refined 212 gray, 196 white, and 84 green bone skeletons. Almost 500, but all ordinary, no supernatural finds. Clearly, getting supernatural remains requires ancient battlefields, not village sites. 2 more bone spirit rangers were cultivated using great horn bull blood, bringing my supernatural skeleton count to 38. Total regular skeletons, 1,918. With that many tireless workers, building speed was incredible. The eastern reservoir zone's outer walls were finished in 1 month. Skeletons were now digging foundations for the southeast livestock zone and the southern cemetery zone walls. I came here as a so-called pioneer with nothing, just dried rations. No seeds for farming. But during the mosquito plague, skeletons had captured plenty of tameable herbivores. So the first supply zone I'm building is livestock, not farmland. The cemetery zone needs protection too. More and more bodies are buried there, and I can't let outsiders disturb my future bone harvests. One afternoon, Audrey and the cat girls were at the eastern reservoir releasing fish that skeletons had caught from other waters. Fisheries are solid logistics. Once the reservoirs mature, they'll supply Kurd with fish indefinitely. I wandered over, drawn by splashing sounds. Suehua was crouched at the water's edge, staring at a big fish that hadn't swum away yet. I grabbed her from behind, laughing. We're eating fish tonight. These cat girls do seem to love fish. Though before the fish dinner, I plan to enjoy a different kind of treat first. With Kurd established as a solid base, it was time to expand outward. Sueshin relayed intelligence from my skeleton assassins. I'd sent them out weeks ago to search for ancient battlefields across the Odyssey. One target stood out, a Minotaur tribe in the forested mountains directly south of Kurd. They weren't far away, and one of their war parties had attacked my camp before, a potential threat. More importantly, Minotaurs respect their dead and bury them in dedicated graveyards, unlike goblins who eat their own. A nearby threat with valuable burial grounds. The perfect target. Time to stretch my legs, I said. After confirming the tribe had no second-rank supernatural fighters, I ordered the skeletons to assemble at the south gate. I'd lead this attack personally, a night raid. The skeletons gathered fast and marched silently through the twilight toward the Minotaur territory. The forest wasn't quiet. Angry roars echoed through the trees. For the past week, my skeleton assassins had been sneaking into the Minotaur village for hit-and-run killings, keeping them on edge and testing their strength. Tonight, I turned that harassment into a strategy. I had the assassins launch another provocation, luring nearly half the Minotaur warriors out into the forest to chase them. The assassins played an expert game of cat and mouse, popping out to kill a few Minotaurs, then vanishing, drawing the chieftain and his warriors deeper and deeper into the woods. Then my assassins did something brilliant on their own. 2 bone spirit assassins split up. One kept leading the Minotaurs on a chase. The other snuck into a powerful magical beast's territory and stole several eggs, then fled back toward the Minotaur warriors. When the furious parent beast tracked the scent, the assassins hurled the stolen eggs at the Minotaur chieftain. The chieftain thought it was another assassin projectile and smashed it with his axe. Eggshell cracked. An embryonic beast remained splattered all over him. His face went pale. He understood instantly. This was a setup to pit him against the beast. Right on cue, a second-rank wind magical beast burst through the trees, shredding everything in its path. It saw its destroyed young on the ground and the chieftain covered in egg fluid and flesh. No explanation would save him now. The beast attacked in blind rage. "What talent?" I said, sensing what my assassins had done through our faint connection. Using the enemy's neighbor as a weapon, driving the tiger to devour the wolf. They're assassin specialists through and through. And they're skeletons. Nobody expects them to be honorable gentlemen. With the chieftain and half his warriors trapped fighting a second-rank magical beast, I seized the moment. My skeleton army hit the village. The remaining defenders had been focused on the forest chase and never noticed an army approaching from outside. By the time they reacted, skeletons were already over the walls, cutting down minotaurs everywhere. No mercy in war. Under my command, the skeletons killed every minotaur they found. A few supernatural minotaur warriors had stayed behind, but they couldn't match my supernatural skeletons. I used them to practice my earth split slash. Though against the thick-skinned minotaurs, it only produced the blade wave effect without the ground-shaking component. After a few rounds of practice, I didn't waste more time. I called in a group of supernatural skeletons to finish them off. Fair duels aren't my style. Under 1,000 skeletons assault, the half-empty village fell quickly. The skeletons cleaned up while a huge team of laborers rushed to the ancestral graveyard and started digging. The Minotaur chieftain might survive the second-rank beast, or he might not. Either way, if that beast came looking for revenge at the village afterward, I needed to be gone. I could leave the tribe's treasures behind, but the ancestral bones were the whole reason I launched this war. My workers are efficient. Skeleton after skeleton loaded up with bones and carted them back toward Kurd. By the time we finished the excavation, the battle in the forest was still raging. The Minotaur chieftain was tough. He was still fighting. "Sigma, glory is ours," the Minotaur chieftain roared, burying his spare axe into the second-rank beast's skull. His shaman shouted one last battle cry before collapsing dead. The chieftain looked around the battlefield with only grief. Every warrior he'd brought was dead. His right-hand shaman was gone. His own left arm was bitten off at the shoulder. When my supernatural skeletons surrounded him, he knew there was no winner here. For the tribe, he charged one final time. Already broken, he fell quickly under my skeleton's blows. The tribe he fought so hard to protect was already gone. His last stand made me look like the villain. But survival between groups is about perspective, not right and wrong. If the Minotaurs had been stronger, it would be Kurd lying in ruins and me dying heroically. I didn't waste time on sentimentality. I waved the skeletons forward to clean up everything. Minotaur bodies, the second-rank beast's corpse, even the blood-soaked dirt. Not a drop of resource wasted. The skeletons hauled everything back to Kurd before dawn. Back at camp, I assessed the damage. Minotaurs are huge and powerful, swinging massive axes, hammers, and maces. Even my tough-time skeletons cracked under those heavy blows. I lost 14 green bones, 27 white bones, and 72 gray bones attacking the village. 12 green bone assassins died during the luring operation. High-age skeletons near the first-rank threshold. That was the heaviest loss. They faced the chieftain, the shaman, and multiple supernatural Minotaur warriors. Without the Bone Spirit Assassin's brilliant idea to use the magical beast against them, all the assassins would probably have died. The assassins earned top honors. I rewarded them with the second-rank beast's blood. The 2 Bone Spirit Assassins advanced to first-rank mid-level. 15 Green Bone Assassins awakened Bone Spirit energy and became first-rank. Massive improvement for the whole unit. The second-rank beast's meat would fuel my and Audrey's combat aura training. Its magic core is precious too, though I don't know enough magic to use it properly. Like the Coldhorn Deer core powering my underground freezer and the Mosquito cores gathering dust and storage, this one would wait. No rush. I can revive skeleton mages and learn from history. Now for what I really came for, the ancestral bones. This Minotaur tribe had existed for a long time and preserved their dead well. Over 16,000 Minotaur skeletons filled my underground vault, including blue-grade bones over 300 years old and purple-grade over 500 years. The oldest was 756 years, a deep purple skeleton that radiated powerful pressure even in my spirit vision, likely the tribe's founding ancestor. That was the limit of their history, though. No bones above purple grade. Threat eliminated, quality bones secured, mission accomplished. The Odyssey's worsening famine doesn't concern me. We have food. As long as nobody attacks Kurd, I won't go looking for trouble. I just want to focus on reviving skeletons while my workers continue building the 9-square grid. Ordinary Minotaur bones, like cat tribe bones, produce special skeleton types. Regular Minotaurs yield heavy skeleton warrior parts. These heavies stand 2.5 meters tall with absurdly thick bone armor, wielding a bone war hammer as their main weapon and twin mountain-cleaving bone axes on their backs. They're incredibly powerful. In tests against regular skeleton warriors of the same grade, the heavies crushed them. Audrey sparred with one and admitted that without combat aura, she couldn't do anything to it, while its attacks seriously threatened her. Even with aura, she couldn't kill one quickly through that armor. A strong new skeleton type. I was very satisfied. The losses were worth it. Kurd will be stronger. After reviving heavy warriors, I started refining the supernatural Minotaur remains to create supernatural skeletons. Meanwhile, Sueishin and Suehua used materials looted from the Minotaur tribe to brew the special spirit liquid needed for inscribing heritage runes onto the cat girls. Sueishin and Suehua used materials looted from the Minotaur tribe to brew spirit liquid and completed the heritage runes for Suexiang and all the other cat girls. Now every cat girl in Kurd is either an apprentice spirit rune warrior or an apprentice sorcerer. The fox and rabbit girls watched enviously, but without fox or rabbit skeleton ancestors to draw from, they can't recover their lost traditions yet. They're hoping I'll someday find battlefields where their ancestors fought. That won't happen soon. I was busy refining the Minotaur ancestral bones. Beyond the heavy skeleton warriors, I refined 2 types of supernatural Minotaur bone parts: Minotaur skeleton braves and Minotaur skeleton shamans. Their supernatural tradition is totem power. Braves have totem markings on their bodies, similar to spirit cat warriors or human knights. Shamans are casters who summon totem spells, like cat sorcerers or human mages. In the half-month since the raid, I worked non-stop and revived a batch of green bone skeletons, 24 Minotaur braves, 3 Minotaur shamans, and 56 heavy warriors. The braves and heavies share the same bone weapons, but the braves are even bigger, 5 meters tall with thicker armor. The shamans carry totem bone staffs and totem poles strapped to their backs. The poles double as melee weapons. These casters can fight up close too. Like the spirit cat warriors, each Minotaur brave had incomplete heritage totems. Working with Sueishin, I cross-referenced the knowledge stored in every brave and shaman to reconstruct the ancestral totem tradition as completely as possible. The 3 shamans then inscribed the missing parts onto all 24 braves. I'd specifically chosen high-age green bone parts for these braves. Each one was at the threshold of first rank. Once their totems were completed, they all advanced to first rank low level, just like the cat warriors before them. The shamans' combined knowledge yielded 5 totem spells: Healing Totem for area healing, Earth Totem for area defense boost, Taunt Totem to draw enemy aggression, Rally Totem to raise morale, and Wind Fury Totem to increase movement speed. These totems are why the Minotaur tribe could punch above their weight and kill a second-rank beast. When I tested the shamans, their bone-carved totems worked on all my time skeletons, not just Minotaur ones. With shaman support, my entire skeleton army became tougher and more ferocious. The underground vault still held plenty of Minotaur bones to keep me busy for a while. This operation massively boosted Kurd's strength. The second-rank beast blood promoted 2 assassins to first-rank mid-level and awakened 15 more to first rank. After the battle, I created 27 supernatural Minotaur skeletons and a powerful new regular type. Overall, Kurd's combat power roughly doubled compared to before the raid. While I refined bones, Bone Spirit assassins scouted the wasteland, marking future targets and excavation sites for when I run low on materials. No need to rush. I'll stay in Kurd and develop steadily until the Minotaur bones run out. During this period, Kurd got attacked by a thug gang and a goblin tribe. Both are now resting in the cemetery zone. The goblins had been harassing us repeatedly, so after killing the latest raiding party, I sent supernatural skeletons to track them back to their forest hideout and wipe them out. Goblins are the definition of poor and evil. Their camps are full of junk. The only thing they're good at is breeding, by capturing females of other races. In their camp, my skeletons found imprisoned tribal women and beasts in horrible condition, eventually destined to be eaten by adult goblins and their offspring. My skeletons gave the captives a quick death, freeing them from endless torment. Goblins have no graveyard since they eat their own dead, so this raid was purely about removing a nuisance. Kurd kept growing stronger while the rest of the Odyssey suffered its worst period. The famine had lasted 2.5 months. Starving thugs and tribes attacked anyone with food. This was the darkest hour before dawn, the most bloody phase. Once the animal herds that fled the mosquito plague migrate back, the famine ends. Until then, the desperate would do anything for food, including eating corpses. No Federation merchants dared come back after the Vincent family disaster. The Odyssey right now is all risk, no reward. But the famine only hurts small and medium groups. The big powers in the Odyssey have plenty of reserves. Small factions are like roadside weeds. Cut them down, and they grow back eventually. The Odyssey region isn't total chaos. There are rules, just different ones. The biggest example is the Pioneer Territory, a settlement left behind by waves of ambitious knights who tried to reclaim the Odyssey for the Givort Federation. They all failed. Some died, some fled home, but the followers and settlers they abandoned became the origin of the Odyssey's thug gangs. The Pioneer Territory got taken over by large gangs and self-governing fortress towns. Their leaders have treaties with each other, keeping surface-level peace while constantly scheming behind the scenes. The gangs there call themselves mercenary companies. Over the years, the territory has grown to several times its original size, the biggest human stronghold in the Odyssey. Most mercenary leaders and fortress chiefs have connections to Federation nobles. They take bounties, run slave trading and smuggling operations, and sometimes serve as hired hands to deal with inconvenient people, like exiled pioneers. My dear Uncle Vister had hired one such group, the Blood Raven Mercenary Company, to prepare a welcome gift for me at the Pioneer Territory. Too bad I never went there. One day, a Blood Raven scout reported seeing skeletons in the wasteland. Their captain barely remembered the job. Necromancers are irrelevant in today's world. His intelligence officer reminded him about the Hobarton contract on me. Oh, that job. We already completed it. Searched all the way to Winterhold Canyon and found nothing. Mediv was declared dead, the captain said. If he's alive now, that's a new contract. Vister wants his nephew dead? He pays extra. No rabbit, no hawk. They wouldn't lift a finger without more money. Until Vister paid up, whatever necromancer was out there had nothing to do with me as far as they were concerned. They didn't think a necromancer had anything worth stealing anyway. I didn't know my skeleton assassins had been spotted by hidden scouts, and I didn't know about Vister's little surprise at the Pioneer Territory. I was busy inspecting Kurd. After nearly a month of building, the Southeast Livestock Zone and South Cemetery Zone were enclosed by walls. Not finished to full height yet, but 7 meters was enough for now. The herbivores from the city were moved to the Livestock Zone to graze freely. The cemetery got proper protection from scavenging animals. The cemetery zone was being converted into something special. Skeletons were building a massive underground complex based on my blueprints, a multi-level crypt to store specially prepared remains by layer. This is my bone farm. Like aging fine wine, the longer the bones rest underground, the more historical depth they accumulate. All 9 squares of my grid were under construction now, at least at the foundation stage. 7 or 8 meters of temporary wall is enough since the Odyssey has no real armies. I wanted to get the basic framework running first. Summer planting season was about a month away. Missing it would mean waiting until the second half of the year for wheat. Where do we get wheat seeds? Audrey asked during our inspection, looking at the leveled farmland. We'd come here with nothing but dried rations. She was craving bread, almost a full year without any. Potatoes first, I said. Going through Winterhold Fortress to buy wheat seeds would draw too much attention. But my skeleton assassins had recently found a refugee settlement with potato fields. I could work with that. Yes, mashed potatoes, fried potatoes. Audrey was already daydreaming about potato dishes before we'd even stolen them. Poor girl was desperate for real staple food. One dark night, a group of skeletons crept up to the refugee settlement. The assassins knocked out the field guards with clubs, and a crew of skeletons dug up potatoes in the wind, loaded them onto carts, and hauled them away. The next morning, the refugee leader walked out to a site he couldn't begin to explain. Half the potato field was dug up. The guards were sleeping soundly in their shelter with bumps on their heads, knocked out, not napping. Next to them, I'd left money equal to the value of what I took, plus a stack of smoked meat. I have my own code. These refugees never bothered me. There was no reason to kill them over potatoes. I took only half, paid for what I took, and threw in some meat as a bonus. Whether they agreed to the deal or not didn't really matter. It was done. The refugee leader was confused. During a famine, people steal everything and kill everyone. Someone who takes half, leaves payment, and doesn't hurt anyone? That's not how the Odyssey works. He couldn't figure out who did it. The guards had no information. They never saw their attacker. He posted more guards on the remaining potato field and moved on. That afternoon, the refugees used my smoked meat to make big pots of potato stew. They hadn't tasted meat in ages. Back in Kurd, the food situation improved too, but in the opposite direction. We had too much meat and needed variety. Audrey was devouring my cooking. Mashed potatoes, pan-fried potatoes, potato stew with magical beast meat. The cat girls tried the potatoes but preferred fish. Their favorite was potato fish stew, rich broth with potatoes soaked in it. A rare treat since I don't cook often. The skeletons stored the remaining potatoes in dark, damp areas to sprout. Once they grew eyes, we'd cut them into pieces and plant them in the prepared fields. Kurd's agriculture was finally starting. Farming needs water management. The Odyssey's rainy season runs from mid-June to mid-July with heavy storms, so drainage systems are critical. Outside the rainy season, we'd irrigate from the neighboring reservoir zones. Meanwhile, back in Lorland City, Vister received word through his middleman. The Bloodraven Mercenary Company had spotted skeletons in the wasteland and wanted more money to hunt me down. They claimed their original contract was fulfilled. They'd searched all the way to Winterhold Canyon and declared me dead. If I was alive, that was a new job. Vister was furious but trapped. The Blood Ravens were in the Odyssey, beyond his reach. He paid up. As long as I breathed, I was a potential threat to the family position he'd fought so hard to take. He'd have killed me before I even left the Federation if he could have, but assassinating a titled pioneer within Federation borders would give his political enemies ammunition to destroy him. The irony is, I have zero interest in the Hobart Count's title. I wanted out of that cage from the start. Vister practically helped me by exiling me to the Odyssey. Of course I won't thank him. I know he wanted me dead. That debt stays in my ledger. When the time comes, he'll pay in blood. The Bloodraven captain took the money without much thought. He sent his right-hand man, a fighter called White Raven, to find and kill the necromancer. Whether it was actually me didn't matter. Whoever that necromancer was would be reported as Mediv. Just like they'd declared me dead before without a body, they'd declare me dead again with whoever's corpse they found. The skeleton assassins had been spotted not far from Kurd. My 9-square grid was taking shape now, 10 square kilometers of construction standing out clearly on the wasteland. The Blood Ravens found Kurd quickly. No wonder Vister wants his nephew dead, White Raven muttered when he saw it. A necromancer student who built a settlement this size in just 1 year? Give him more time, and he could become a real power. But that wouldn't happen now. White Raven was confident I'd die under his great sword, and the Blood Ravens would claim Kurd as a bonus prize. He was excited. He hadn't expected such a windfall. The outer zones of my 9-square grid still had low walls, some barely a meter high. The Bloodraven mercenaries could see my skeletons working the potato fields, making bricks, and stacking walls. Over 1,000 skeletons visible across the area. None of it scared them. They only saw opportunity. Time to get rich. Charge. Smash the skeletons and kill the necromancer, White Raven shouted, leading the charge toward the low-walled sections on horseback. The mercenaries laughed as they followed. In their minds, this wasn't 1,000 years ago. Necromancy is the bottom of the barrel. A necromancer student's skeletons couldn't possibly be strong. A group of country farmers could probably take this place. White Raven is a first-rank high-level knight, and he'd brought several first-rank mid and low-level knight captains. They didn't know how they could lose. Lucky kid, your luck ends here. White Raven locked eyes with me as I stood on Kurd's city wall. Vister had given them my portrait, so he confirmed I was the target. He made a throat-cutting gesture across the distance and laughed as he vaulted his horse over the low outer walls. Same trick as always. I pulled my farming skeletons back toward the city. Seeing them flood through the gates, the mercenaries howled with laughter and chased after them on horseback. The boss is going to love this place. White Raven grinned when he saw the inner castle. He was already planning to hand Kurd over to the Blood Raven captain as a new headquarters. He'd seen the farmland, the workshops, the core city. This wasn't a simple refugee camp. It was a self-sufficient fortified town. As thanks for my hard work, he'd send me to meet the goddess of light, painlessly. They were daydreaming about moving in when the ground shook. They turned around. Several Minotaur skeleton braves had dropped from the walls and blocked the city gate. 5 meters tall, covered in thick bone armor, wielding twin mountain axes. What the hell are those? In their world, skeletons are small and fragile. These monsters shattered everything they thought they knew. Don't let the size fool you. They're paper tigers. One hit, and they'll fall apart, White Raven shouted, trying to keep morale up. I gave the order. Skeleton archers lined the wall notches and let loose. Arrows rained down. The mercenaries' small hand shields couldn't block the dense volleys. Fighters dropped in waves. When apprentice knights raised their shields and bone arrows punched straight through into their skulls, White Raven's eye twitched. Those shots came from Bone Spirit Rangers, first-rank supernatural skeletons whose bone spirit-enhanced arrows laugh at wooden shields. Follow me. Charge, White Raven screamed, knowing his regular fighters and apprentice knights would all die under the arrows. He rallied the knight captains to rush the walls and kill the archers. A blast of wind hit him. He blocked with his greatsword and got shoved back several steps. His blade had a fresh notch in it. The Minotaur skeleton brave in front of him hadn't moved an inch. A first-rank high-level knight, pushed back by a first-rank low-level skeleton. These things were no paper tigers. Then more supernatural skeletons closed in, skeleton knights, bone spirit warriors, spirit cat warriors. On the walls, bone spirit rangers kept picking off targets. Agile bone spirit assassins and spirit cat warriors slaughtered ordinary mercenaries in the streets. Damn it. We were set up. White Raven was convinced Vister had tricked them. This many supernatural skeletons couldn't belong to a mere necromancer student. No wonder Vister paid so quickly. There was a trap waiting. Split up and run. He knew he couldn't win or protect his men. He told the knight captains to scatter, save whoever can be saved. White Raven turned to flee, but a gray bone-carved totem slammed down from above, locking onto him. Against his will, he spun around and attacked the totem. The Minotaur skeleton shaman's taunt totem had seized his mind. Then the other totems dropped one after another. Green healing totem, brown earth totem, red rally totem, blue wind fury totem, buffing every skeleton around him. Every time he tried to disengage, another taunt totem dragged him back. If he smashed one, a shaman placed another. He was forced into a death match. He had the level advantage, but the Minotaur Brave's thick armor absorbed everything he threw at them. With all the shaman buffs stacking, any damage he managed was healed instantly by the healing totem. He fought harder and harder, growing more furious and more terrified. I won't accept this. White Raven's vision blurred and he collapsed, muttering in defiance. A first-rank high-level knight, killed by skeletons. Mediv, your skeletons are amazing. Audrey cheered from the wall beside me. She trains against the Minotaur Braves regularly and knows their strength well. White Raven was genuinely powerful. He'd killed more supernatural fighters than he could count on both hands. But he ran into something stronger. Good fight, I said, satisfied. The Minotaur Braves and Shamans were the stars. One tanks and hits hard, the other taunts and buffs. They locked White Raven down completely. The heavier the front line, the deadlier this combination becomes. By the end, the Shamans learned to place taunt totems directly on the Braves, making escape impossible as long as the Brave stays standing. Of course, taunt is mind-based control. Someone with strong enough mental power or anti-control items could break free. The ordinary mercenaries and apprentice knights couldn't scratch my skeletons. The knight-level enemies were handled by supernatural skeletons. Kurd suffered 0 losses. I waved the skeletons off to clean up and looked out over my domain from the wall. Over the past month and a half, I hadn't focused solely on Minotaur bones. Concerned about slow construction, I excavated several more residential ruins and mass-produced regular skeletons. 423 gray, 326 white, and 154 green, including 36 high-age heavy warriors. The Great Horn Bulls donated blood twice, promoting 3 Minotaur shamans and 1 ranger to first rank. 1 greenbone warrior awakened naturally too. Current supernatural count, 82, with 2 at first rank mid-level and 80 at first rank low-level. I was close to advancing to first rank high-level knight myself. Audrey had already reached first rank mid-level. Magical Beast Meat fuels combat aura growth wonderfully. Regular skeletons totaled nearly 2,700. Building speed for the 9-square grid was accelerating. I didn't celebrate. White Raven had called me by name. This wasn't a random thug attack. Someone sent him specifically for me. I had to assume there were more enemies behind him, probably stronger ones. To make sure they'd sleep well in my underground crypt, I worked overtime refining Minotaur braves and shamans. The Minotaur ancestral bones from 250 to 300 years ago were the most numerous, silent records of the devastating Odyssey War era when tribes lost countless warriors and supernatural fighters. In 1 week of non-stop work, I revived 12 more Minotaur skeleton braves and 2 shamans. High-age green-boned supernatural skeletons were getting easier to revive, proof my mental strength was growing. Each revival is a form of spiritual tempering, and higher-age bones give better results. Every skeleton carries fragments of its past life's knowledge. This new batch brought different pieces, further completing the Minotaur heritage totems. The Shaman Totem Library gained 2 new types, Holy Shield Totem, which projects a light barrier onto allies, and Flame Totem, which fires flame rays at enemies and can enchant allied weapons with fire damage. I tested the flame buff. It works on regular skeletons, but slowly burns their bone weapons. Only supernatural skeletons with bone spirit energy can handle fire enchantment without damage. I was eager to see these new totems in real combat. Meanwhile, back at the Pioneer territory, the Blood Raven captain was getting anxious. White Raven had been gone too long. He trusted his co-founder. Betrayal wasn't the issue. Something had gone wrong. The famine was ending as animal herds returned to the Odyssey, so starvation couldn't explain it. He started wondering if someone was targeting his mercenary company, the same way he'd once cannibalized another group to build the Blood Ravens. He sent scouts to search for White Raven and gather intelligence. They actually did pick up rumors about outside thug groups eyeing positions in the Pioneer territory, which made him even more cautious. Then Vister's middleman showed up asking why the job wasn't done yet. The client was getting impatient. Mediv is dead, the Blood Raven captain told Vister's middleman impatiently. He had bigger worries. Someone might be targeting his own group. Where's the body? The middleman pressed. This time Vister wanted proof. I said he's dead. That's final. The killing intent in the captain's eyes made the middleman's spine go cold. He remembered where he was, congratulated the captain on completing the job, and left quickly. On his way out, the middleman passed a woman in revealing black clothes. Night Raven, the Blood Raven's second vice-captain, known as the Black Widow of the Pioneer territory. Many mercenaries had been seduced by her beauty and vanished without a trace. Night Raven reported her investigation. The rival mercenary group she'd looked into wasn't targeting the Blood Ravens, and White Raven had no connection to them. Then where did he die? The captain muttered. His scouts brought new information. They'd found a large fortified settlement full of skeletons, Kurd. They couldn't confirm if White Raven died there, but with over 1,000 skeletons, a few ordinary scouts couldn't investigate further. Interesting. When did a necromancer build a whole city out here? Both the captain and Night Raven were surprised. Compared to Kurd, their own base looked like ruins. So White Raven died to a bunch of skeletons. The captain found the idea laughable. Like everyone else, he considered necromancy the weakest profession. 99.9% of people would agree. The most famous recent necromancer story was about a student who got captured by goblins and ended up pregnant with goblin offspring. Necromancers had become a complete joke. Still, White Raven went after a necromancer and disappeared while the necromancer was still standing. Kurd was definitely involved. I'll deal with this necromancer myself. He wouldn't underestimate someone who built a fortified city and survived a famine. But failure? He didn't consider it possible. He's a second-rank low-level knight, among the strongest fighters in the entire Odyssey. The next morning, the Blood Raven captain marched out of the Pioneer territory with his full force. He left barely anyone at base. As long as the main force survived, nobody would dare touch their camp. A homeless mercenary company with nothing to lose and no rules would be everyone's nightmare. Other Pioneer territory factions noticed the movement and sent spies. The captain had Night Raven eliminate the tails. He'd set his sights on Kurd as a new headquarters and didn't want competition. The Blood Ravens didn't head straight for Kurd. They spent days circling through the wasteland, making sure they weren't followed. That caution gave me an extra week. I didn't know any of this was coming, but I was preparing anyway. In that week, I revived 8 more green-bone Minotaur Braves, 1 shaman, and 32 heavy skeleton warriors. The supernatural Minotaur bones from the 250 to 300-year range were used up now. After the Odyssey War, few supernatural Minotaurs died in the quieter era, so there weren't many bones from 100 to 250 years. The 8 new Braves advanced to first rank after receiving completed ancestral totems. I borrowed blood from the Great Horn Bulls ahead of schedule to promote the 3 new shamans to first rank too. With an unknown enemy possibly incoming, I couldn't afford to be patient. By the time the Blood Ravens approached Kurd, I had 105 first-rank supernatural skeletons. Second-rank knight versus my skeleton army. We'd see who wins. What a fortress! The captain stared at Kurd, far more impressive than his scouts described. I'd been building non-stop. The workshop zone and western reservoir zone now had 8-meter walls. The central city and eastern reservoir had 16-meter walls. Livestock and cemetery zones had 10 meters. Workshop and western reservoir had 8. Only the 3 farmland zones still had their 1-meter stubs, deliberately, since livestock is my main food source right now. Everything important sits behind high walls. Same as before, when the Blood Ravens appeared, my farming skeletons pulled back to the city. But this time, the enemy didn't chase. The Blood Raven captain watched them retreat without moving. He wasn't going to rush in blindly. In his mind, whoever built this place had to be a real mage, not a student. He wasn't here for Vistor's contract anymore. He wanted Kurd itself. His men scouted around and found that most zones had walls protecting them. Attacking the central city directly would mean getting hit from multiple directions. The captain chose the workshop zone. It only had 8-meter walls and could be attacked from 3 sides. He'd checked by throwing lightweight scouts into the air to peek over the walls. The western reservoir was all ponds with skeletons guarding the paths between them. Too messy. He didn't want skeletons sneaking out behind him during a city assault. I watched everything from the high walls. Inside Kurd, my skeletons move on shorter interior routes and can redeploy faster than enemies running around the outside. I immediately sent heavy forces to the workshop zone. The Blood Ravens built siege ladders and attacked from 3 directions. My skeleton archers took the high ground and started raining arrows down. One mercenary after another dropped. Their own archers tried shooting back, but arrows bounce off bone. My shooters ignored them and picked off the exposed bowmen instead. "Captain, we can't get up. Too many skeleton archers," the mercenaries reported. Over 100 casualties in no time. The initial excitement faded into fear. Apprentice knights couldn't make it up the walls. Knight-level captains tried leading charges, but got driven back. One nearly died to a Bone Spirit Ranger's sniper shot. "Fine, I'll do it myself," the captain growled. Night Raven had vanished somewhere, typical of her, and his captains were useless against my rangers. He wasn't going to retreat. He's a second-rank knight. Running from first-rank skeletons? He could already imagine the other Pioneer territory leaders mocking him. He charged up a siege ladder like it was flat ground, swatting away arrows with his aura-covered sword, and leaped onto the wall with a heavy overhead strike aimed at a Bone Spirit Ranger. Mid-leap, his mind buzzed. His eyes went red, and he spun toward a Minotaur skeleton brave inside the wall, one carrying a glowing taunt totem on its back. Against his will, he chased it with murderous fury. The brave didn't block. Under my command, it jumped off the wall. Damn! Mind magic! The captain broke free from the taunt, but by then he'd already followed the brave down. He landed inside my kill zone. 36 Minotaur skeleton braves surrounded him. The ground was studded with totems, healing, earth, holy shield, and more. You think this is enough to kill me? He laughed with contempt. He admitted the necromancer had clever tactics, isolating him instantly. But a few dozen first-rank low-level skeletons killing a second-rank knight? Impossible. Absolute power crushes all strategy. Then his face changed completely. His full-power aura charge strike hit a skeleton brave and left only a shallow scratch on the bone armor, buffed by Earth Totem and Holy Shield Totem. It didn't even count as a light wound. And under the healing totem's green glow, even that scratch was slowly closing. When the braves swung back with their mountain axes and war hammers, the impact made his wrists go numb. High attack, high defense, self-healing. These weren't ordinary first-rank skeletons. His superiority vanished. For the first time, he felt death closing in. All he wanted now was to escape. He wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go. Every time he tried to break free, a taunt totem landed on a skeleton brave and dragged him back. Every time he smashed one, the next was already prepared. 6 skeleton shamans working in rotation. The Blood Raven captain never had a chance to disengage. His mercenaries climbed the walls, but it changed nothing. Skeleton knights, bone spirit assassins, and spirit cat warriors met them on the battlements. His men died one by one, unable to reach him. The outcome was clear. He'd be ground down by braves and shamans while his mercenaries got wiped out by my supernatural skeletons. Then the flame skeleton mage beside me sent out a pulse of spiritual energy. A ring of fire expanded outward from my position. An invisible figure was forced into view, clothes full of burn holes. Night Raven. She'd drunk an invisibility potion and snuck past my outer defenses to assassinate me. Impressive, getting this far, I said. Her stealth skills were real, but she hadn't counted on the flame skeleton mage's spiritual detection. Cornered, she showed courage. She pushed through the fire and lunged at me with her daggers. The clash of steel told her everything. I'm a first-rank high-level knight now. She's an assassination-type fighter, weaker in raw power than an earth knight like me. Flame grip. While our auras collided and she stiffened, the skeleton mage's bone book lit up and a flaming hand grabbed her. Audrey attacked simultaneously with fire combat skills. An assassin lives on the first strike. After 2 failed attempts, Night Raven was quickly beaten down and captured. What should we do with her? Audrey asked, sword at the woman's neck. Night Raven stayed silent. Kill her, I said. She was skilled and beautiful, but she wasn't someone I raised. There's no trust. My bone spirit assassins who came up with the tiger and wolf scheme are just as capable, and they're completely loyal. No need for an unknown element. My decisiveness surprised Night Raven. She'd expected a surrender offer. A first-rank high-level knight is valuable in the Odyssey. But facing death, she didn't beg. She lifted her chin slightly and let the blade cross her throat in silence. She was a good warrior, Audrey said with a hint of regret. Different circumstances, and they might have been friends. With Night Raven dead, only the Blood Raven captain remained fighting. Battered, unable to win or escape, surrounded by supernatural skeletons he hadn't even engaged yet, he screamed toward me offering allegiance. I didn't respond. He kept fighting. Later, bleeding worse, he abandoned all pride and begged for a slave contract. Still no answer. I'm only a mage student. I can't perform mental binding contracts. Even if I could, I wouldn't trust it to hold a cunning second-rank knight. I can create supernatural skeletons and have a bright path ahead. Why risk an unstable variable? Night Raven and the Blood Raven captain faced death differently, but the ending was the same. His death marked the end of the Blood Raven mercenary company. They were planning to move in. During cleanup, my skeletons found the Blood Raven's entire treasury in their temporary camp. The captain had been so confident he'd take Kurd that he brought everything with him. An unexpected bonus. I glanced through it and handed it to Audrey, my little housekeeper, to inventory. None of it interested me as much as quality bones would. We didn't kill all the prisoners. Some mercenaries were interrogated and revealed everything. Why they came, who hired them, and the connection to Vister. So it was you, Vister. I finally learned he'd set up a trap for me at the Pioneer territory before I even arrived in the Odyssey. Then he paid for a second contract when skeletons were spotted. I said his name coldly. He's on my kill list, no question. But dealing with Vister means preparing to face the Hobarton family. They're not some backwater mercenary group. They're an ancient noble house. My own father was a third-rank high-level knight when he died on a foreign battlefield, and he wasn't even the family's strongest. The Hobartons have a fourth-rank knight. That fourth-rank knight wouldn't help Vister come after me. Family elders don't interfere in lower-level competition. But if I try to kill Vister, I can't avoid dealing with them. The family encourages rivalry, but doesn't support outright murder between members. That's why Vister had to hire outsiders to kill me in the Odyssey rather than use family forces openly. Revenge on Vister isn't happening anytime soon. What matters now is building Kurd and getting stronger. The Blood Ravens are gone, but the danger isn't over. Vista hired them once. He can hire someone else. Until I'm ready to face the Hobarton family directly, all I can do is deal with whatever he throws at me. At least it costs him dearly each time. Thinking about him raging uselessly in Lorland City after spending all that money for nothing puts me in a good mood. After destroying the Blood Ravens, I went back to steady development. I started being more selective with bones, only refining Minotaur remains between 100 and 290 years old. Anything below or above that goes into the underground crypt for long-term storage. Kurd has a solid foundation now, so I'm planning ahead. Low-age Minotaur bones are too valuable to waste on gray or white skeletons when they could gain more historical depth sitting in the crypt. My vision for the skeleton army is green bone minimum for combat, with gray and white bones handling logistics and construction. My skeleton assassins have been mapping the region continuously. Their hand-drawn maps are covered in red dots, each one a residential ruin to excavate. I now have a professional archaeology team that goes out every night to dig up bones and bring them back. Production never stops. My ambition is to keep expanding outward, block by block, eventually swallowing the entire Odyssey. Mediv, wheat seeds. Audrey came running with a sack while I was in the tower. She'd found quality wheat seeds among the Blood Raven loot. The captain had bought them before the attack, planning to have slaves farm Kurd after he took it. He'd wanted to transform from a wandering thug into a proper settlement lord. He brought his entire fortune because he was that desperate for a real home. Who wouldn't prefer city walls over sleeping in the rain? What a gift. I'd been worrying about where to get wheat seeds, and the Blood Ravens delivered them right to my door. I immediately assigned skeleton farmers to prepare 2 new farmland zones east of the current grid, the beginning of Kurd's second 9-square district. The 3 existing farm zones already had potatoes growing. These new zones sit near the functional eastern reservoir for easy irrigation. The seeds only covered 2 zones, so I didn't waste labor clearing more land than I could plant. Back in Lorland City, Vister received word that the Blood Ravens claimed I was dead again. He demanded a body this time, having paid extra for proof. The middleman reported that the Blood Ravens refused verification. Vister slammed his desk in fury. He'd been strung along twice now. He threatened the middleman organization, bring back proof or face consequences. The middleman reluctantly went looking for the Blood Raven captain. The captain wasn't at the Pioneer territory. The camp was nearly empty. After asking around, the middleman learned the entire Blood Raven company had marched into the wilderness weeks ago and never returned. Other factions were already eyeing their territory. If the captain didn't reappear soon, the Blood Raven's holdings would be devoured. After waiting half a month with no sign of anyone, not the captain, not Night Raven, not a single officer, it was clear. The Blood Raven mercenary company had been wiped out somewhere in the wasteland. The middleman reported the situation back to his organization, who rushed the news to Vister. They just disappeared. Vister's face darkened. All he'd wanted was a simple elimination job. First he got scammed repeatedly, and now the hired killers themselves had vanished. Every other contract his family had commissioned went smoothly. Why was this one so impossible? The Blood Ravens left behind only expendable nobodies at their camp. They knew nothing about where the captain went or Vister's contract. Nobody in the Pioneer territory could extract useful information from them. Even most mercenaries who marched out didn't know the target, just that it was a big operation. My skeletons work at night and stay hidden during the day. Kurd's location is remote, and my assassins regularly clean up anyone who wanders too close. After the Blood Raven incident, I expanded the assassin patrol range. Time works in my favor. The later Kurd gets discovered, the better. Back in Lorland City, Vister was stuck. He couldn't confirm whether I was alive or dead. Nobody connected the Blood Raven's disappearance to me. In their minds, a necromancer student couldn't possibly kill a second-rank knight. They assumed the Blood Raven stumbled into some secret dungeon and got wiped out. The middleman organization sent a few cheap scouts into the Odyssey to look for me, just to give Vister a token gesture. They weren't spending real money on this. They'd covered themselves legally and weren't afraid of Vister's threats. Vister couldn't afford to hire another major mercenary company for an open-ended search. Sending his own trusted people would raise suspicion among family rivals. The Odyssey is too vast for a handful of agents to find anyone. The matter went cold. Unless new information surfaced, there was nothing he could do. A month and a half after the Blood Ravens died at Kurd, I inspected my territory. The 3 farm zones in the first 9-square grid now had 8-meter walls protecting lush potato fields. East of the first grid, I'd started the second 9-square district with 5 zones already built, 2 farmland zones, a central city zone, a reservoir zone, and a workshop zone, all behind 5-meter walls. The wheat fields were green and thriving. Both workshop zones were packed with brick factories producing massive quantities every day. In this month and a half, I refined 625 gray, 424 white, and 216 green bone skeletons, including 56 heavy warriors. The Great Horn Bulls were resting after I'd borrowed blood ahead of schedule, so no new promotions from that source. 1 green warrior and 1 heavy warrior awakened bone spirit energy naturally, and Suexiong advanced to first-rank spirit rune warrior. 1 9-square grid covers 10 square kilometers. Kurd is only going to get more visible. I need overwhelming strength before that happens, enough to bury any enemy who comes. I built a tall tower in my central castle because I dream of having a real mage tower someday. But I'm a half-trained mage who doesn't know how to build one. Everything beyond meditation and skeletal revival, I learned from my flame skeleton mage, and its knowledge is limited. To learn more magic, I need to revive more skeleton mages and piece together lost traditions the way I did with the cat tribe and minotaur heritage. Every revival strengthens my spirit. I can feel the threshold of advancement approaching. I don't know how other mage students become full mages. I only know that if I keep reviving skeletons, the breakthrough will come. Mediv, the rainy season is coming. Audrey called out one afternoon as wind whipped her dress and dark clouds raced across the sky. Doesn't matter, I said, glancing at the horizon. This isn't a year ago when fishmen nearly wiped us out. Now I live behind high walls with an army of hardened fighters. Bring as many fishmen as you want. So safe. Audrey snuggled up to me. Last rainy season she almost died. Having me here makes her feel invincible. A moment later, feeling my arms around her from behind, she smiled so wide her eyes curved into crescents. Even safer now. She said she wouldn't be afraid even if the world ended. The storms rolled in within days. Rain hammered the windows. In the downpour, thugs hid in their camps while fishmen emerged from rivers and lakes to raid everywhere. The rain didn't slow Kurd's construction at all. We set up rain shelters on the walls and inside the city. Skeletons kept stacking bricks through the storm. When fishmen wandered near Kurd, wall archers shot them down. The blood scent spread through the mist and attracted more. Kurd didn't fear fishmen gathering at all. Audrey even organized a hunting competition among the skeleton archers, seeing who could kill the most efficiently. Wave after wave of fishmen were drawn in by the blood scent and cut down by arrows. My skeleton archers never run out. Their bones naturally grow extra material that gets forged into arrows. They're all hoarders with bags and bags stockpiled. After every fight, they collect and refurbish their arrows. The skeleton blacksmiths also craft standard bone arrows and iron arrows stored in wall armories. The blood attracted supernatural fishmen eventually. A year ago, 2 first-rank fishmen nearly killed Audrey and me. Now, they couldn't even get close. The Bone Spirit Rangers and Assassins joined the competition and dropped them in minutes. Their death scent scared off the rest, just like last year. No more fishmen after that. The rainy season passed uneventfully. My water systems held perfectly, no flooding in the city or farms. The reservoir ponds filled up, ready for future droughts. Under clear skies, the Great Horn Bulls walked into the livestock zone for their regular blood donation. After resting, they were healthy enough for the cycle to resume. 2 more skeleton rangers awaken Bone's spirit energy from the blood. I'm prioritizing ranged fighters now since I have plenty of melee supernatural skeletons. During the rainy month, walls kept going up everywhere. Several zones reached 16 meters. The second 9-square district's 5 zones went from 5 to 8 meters, with the inner fortress area built out. My castle's underground expanded to 3 levels of storage. I refined 312 gray, 208 white, and 136 green bone skeletons. Farmers, warriors, hunters, plus cooks, butchers, blacksmiths, tanners, and craftsmen. Then one afternoon while I was sunning myself on the terrace, a spirit cat skeleton sorcerer came to report. The supernatural skeletons are intelligent enough to speak by vibrating air with mental force. Under Suaishin's teaching, the cat sorcerers and minotaur shamans had all learned the human language. Lord Mediv, a mountain flood tore open the ground. We found what looks like an ancient battlefield during patrol. The words, ancient battlefield, brought me to my feet instantly. I leaped up and told it to lead the way. After riding out, I reached a stretch of flood-ravaged wasteland littered with scattered bones. I scanned them with my spirit. All 282 years old, all dying the same year. Clearly a battlefield. The sight hurt. Many skeletons had been washed apart. I need complete sets to refine bone parts. No missing limbs. Reassembling scattered bones is something I can do from my past life as an archaeologist, but pieces swept away by the flood are gone forever. Start here, no time to mourn. I launched an emergency excavation before conditions worsened. Thousands of skeletons carefully scraped mud, pulling remains out one by one. If any wandering thugs saw this scene, thousands of skeletons gently digging up bones in a muddy field, they'd think they were having a nightmare. What a find! As we dug deeper, I recovered dozens of supernatural remains from both humans and other races, mostly human and orc. Clearly, the Givort Federation army had clashed with the orc kingdom here. I set up a field tent and started refining supernatural bones on site. Human remains produced knight and mage bone parts. Orc remains produced berserker and prophet bone parts. My mental strength had been sitting at the advancement threshold for a while. I needed one massive spring of time feedback to trigger the breakthrough. Reviving a new type of skeleton is always the hardest, and caster types are harder than combat types. I had a feeling reviving an orc prophet skeleton would be my moment. After days of refining over 100 supernatural bones, I finally assembled a complete set of orc prophet parts. I calmed my excitement, adjusted my mental and magical state to peak condition, and began the revival. The familiar sensation of sweat pouring down my face returned, something that hadn't happened in a long time. With total concentration, the orc skeleton prophet raised its bone staff and stood up. I had no time to study the orc skeleton prophet. I was deep in the spiritual leap triggered by the spring of time. My accumulation was finally enough. This was the spark that turned quantity into quality. I'm a real mage now. After the spiritual surge settled, my mental strength jumped massively. I advanced from high-level mage student to first-rank low-level mage. Before entering Lorland Academy, I'd learned that normal mage students measure their path to full mage in decades. Compared to those academy types, I'm far ahead. Mage training needs both talent and resources. Talent without potions means decades of meditation with barely any progress. Resources without talent means potions work poorly. Most high-level students get stuck at the final threshold forever. Ancient mages invented ascension potions to stimulate mental energy into a heightened state, but even those only improve the odds, no guarantees. For me, the special spring of time feedback from reviving a new skeleton type serves the same purpose as an ascension potion. I'd noticed the pattern. New types give the strongest feedback, supernatural skeletons give more than ordinary ones, and caster types give the most of all. That's exactly why I chose the orc prophet for my breakthrough moment. Mage advancement is a mental trial. Failure damages your spirit and takes a long time to recover, even with healing potions. No rapid retries. Every attempt counts. I prepared thoroughly and succeeded on the first try. After celebrating, I tested the orc skeleton prophet. It's a caster wearing bone armor with a bone staff. Its second signature weapon is a cursed sword, a bone blade enchanted with curses that afflicts enemies on contact. It knows 3 curse spells: Weakness curse reduces the target's strength and constitution. Bleeding curse makes wounds bleed endlessly. And pain curse inflicts constant agony that erodes willpower. As a first-rank mage now, I can refine bones from 300 to 500 years old, blue grade. This battlefield only has fixed-age green bones, so blue refinement would have to wait until I got back to Kurd. I resisted the urge. This flood-damaged battlefield needed urgent excavation before more bones were lost. I soon assembled a human knight set and revived it easily. As a first-rank mage, green bone supernatural skeletons are effortless now. The new fire skeleton knight was the same starting level as previous ones, senior apprentice, one step from first rank. He carried the same flame-breathing technique, but knew one new fire combat skill the others didn't. I had the flame skeleton mage record it. The flame aura heritage keeps growing richer. Then I assembled an orc berserker set. The orc skeleton berserker stands 3 meters tall with armor as thick as a human skeleton knight's. Its weapons are twin hand axes plus a belt of throwing axes. No fancy techniques, just chop harder, chop faster. Their supernatural ability is blood rage frenzy. The longer they fight, the faster they swing. The more they kill, the stronger they hit. Once frenzy stacks high enough, they absorb enemy blood to form a rage blood shield on their body that blocks damage and heals bone injuries. Real orcs burn their own life force to fuel the frenzy, but my skeleton berserkers burn bone spirit energy instead. Once the blood shield forms, it runs on enemy blood. As long as the shield holds, the berserker never runs out of fuel. The first orc berserker revival triggered an intense spring of time feedback. All my spent energy and magic recovered, and my mental strength ceiling rose significantly. The more I worked, the more energized I felt. I kept refining and reviving without stopping. A second skeleton mage. When a new skeleton mage stood up holding a bone staff and bone book, I got genuinely excited. I'm someone who loves learning. I don't want to stay a half-trained mage forever. This one was different from the first. The first mage had fire symbols on its book and fire runes on its staff, a fire specialist. This new one had frost patterns and ice runes, an ice specialist. It knew 7 ice spells including Frost Shield and Ice Spike, plus 3 universal spells, Magic Missile, Cleanse, and Mage's Grip. Finally, a proper attack spell. Magic Missile is the most basic attack spell. You create a ball of magic energy and throw it at a target. At Laurelin Academy, Magic Missile and Magic Shield are mandatory for every mage student's graduation exam. The only exception was necromancer students. We just needed skeletal revival to graduate. The academy didn't want to waste resources on a useless profession. When I graduated, my teacher submitted his resignation the same day. After that, Laurelin Academy had no necromancy department. I was the last necromancer student they ever produced. Still, learning Magic Missile made me happy. Now I look like a real mage. I can shoot magic missiles, throw up a shield, and actually protect myself. I had the Frost Mage write down all its magical knowledge for me to study later. Creating new spells or modifying existing ones requires deep knowledge I don't have yet. For now, I'll stick to learning what's already available. After 5 days of emergency excavation, the battlefield was completely cleared. What a haul! In those 5 days I'd advanced to full mage, learned Magic Missile, and revived 12 supernatural skeletons, 5 orc berserkers, 2 orc prophets, for flame skeleton knights, and 1 frost skeleton mage. The second orc prophet brought a new curse, darkness curse, which distorts the target's vision and impairs their judgment, making fatal mistakes likely. The 4 flame knights didn't bring new combat skills, but each had unique training insights that Suaishin copied down. She's become my secretary, handling all documentation with her heart voice ability. There were still unmatched supernatural parts and unrefined bones on the carts, plus loads of ordinary bones. Kurd would soon gain many more high-age green bone skeletons. And now that I'd unlocked blue bone refinement, a treasure trove waited in my vault. Mediv, you're finally back. Audrey spotted the caravan from the walls and galloped out to meet me. We rode back together, chatting and laughing. Audrey, turn around. I was in too good a mood to hold back. I cast Cleanse on both of us and made several of her fantasies come true. After a wonderful night's sleep, I went to the underground vault the next morning to start refining blue bones, at least 300 years old. Still not strong enough? I muttered. Bones from 300 to 350 years produce light blue parts. 350 to 400 become sky blue. 400 to 450 become cobalt blue. Anything above 450 is beyond me for now. I started reviving. Ordinary light blue skeletons came easily, with decent spring of time feedback. Ordinary sky blue skeletons made me sweat. Heavy drain on spirit and magic, but the feedback was significantly better. Ordinary cobalt blue skeletons were completely beyond my limit. For supernatural types, even light blue made me sweat, and supernatural sky blue was impossible. Blue bone skeletons start at first rank with a growth ceiling of third rank. Light blues begin at first rank low level, sky blues at first rank mid level. Same color doesn't mean same strength. Supernatural skeletons with both bone spirit energy and their own powers outperform ordinary ones of a higher color. And profession matters too. An ordinary sky blue farmer still loses to an ordinary light blue warrior. The supernatural light blue skeleton I revived was a Minotaur skeleton brave. Only supernatural blue bones I had came from the Minotaur ancestral graveyard. Its totem markings didn't add anything new to our existing heritage records. That makes sense. The Minotaur tribe's traditions were intact during that era. Their losses happened during the Odyssey War, just like the Spirit Cat tribe. Even with the last rites blessing slowing bone decay, time still wears everything down. Only properly buried remains last long. My vault didn't have many bones over 300 years old, so I couldn't produce that many blue bone skeletons. I should actually thank the god of light. The blessing preserved ordinary bones longer, and since necromancers became irrelevant, nobody bothers with careful burials anymore. They just dig a hole and dump bodies in, which makes my archaeological work much easier. After focused refining, I processed every blue bone I could handle. 2 supernatural light blue skeletons, 32 ordinary light blues, and 18 ordinary sky blues. The supernatural ones were both Minotaur braves. The ordinary ones included warriors, hunters, farmers, and others. 52 first-rank blue bone skeletons in just over 2 weeks, growth speed like a rocket. I distributed this month's magical beast blood. The green bone frost mage and 1 orc prophet advanced to first-rank low level. 2 green bones awakened naturally too. A heavy warrior and a ranger became bone spirit warriors. Construction never stopped. The second 9-square grid was now fully walled. For newer zones had 5-meter walls. 5 older zones reached 8 meters. In the first grid, 6 zones hit 16 meters, and the remaining 3 were at 10. Still not enough skeletons. Every stage brings new dissatisfaction. I decided to mass-produce gray and white bone skeletons to speed up building. As a first-rank mage, refining gray and white bones is trivially easy. I set up an assembly line. Skeletons carried raw bones to the refining table. I melted them into parts. Other skeletons moved completed parts to the revival table. I revived them. Fresh gray and white skeletons walked off the table on their own. A perfectly efficient production line. After 2 weeks, the supply skeleton's jaw clacked, the signal that gray and white bone stock was depleted. Suishin translated helpfully. "Bring up the green bones," I said, still in work machine mode. I had the battlefield green bones brought up and kept going. Supernatural bones came first. Within days, every supernatural remain was refined into parts. I matched them into sets and started reviving. A third skeleton mage. The first one up was another mage, highest priority. A fire specialist this time. No new universal spells for me, but 3 more fire spells for the library. I had it write down its knowledge and file everything away. Over the next few days, supernatural skeletons kept standing up. 1 fire mage, 3 flame knights, 1 earth knight, 6 orc berserkers, and 2 orc prophets. The fire knights brought no new skills. The earth knight gave me 2 new earth combat techniques. The prophets added a new curse, sleep curse. Low mental resistance targets fall unconscious immediately. Average resistance targets get drowsy and confused. After the supernatural bones, I kept going with ordinary human soldier and orc warrior remains. Orc warrior bones produce a different type. Axe and shield skeleton warriors instead of the sword and shield type from human bones. I also got skeleton marksmen from proper longbow soldiers, different from skeleton rangers. Marksmen are stationary heavy hitters while rangers are mobile skirmishers. Both can fight close range, making it hard for enemies to pick off my backline. Time to rest. After a full month of nonstop production, I stretched and signaled the supply skeletons to stop. Beyond the supernatural skeletons, I produced 1,625 gray, 736 white, and 324 green bone skeletons. The vault was nearly empty. I'd take it easier now, study, relax, refine casually, until the bone stockpile built back up. Mediv, here's the fresh beast blood. Audrey was directing skeletons carrying blood containers when I returned to the tower hall. The great horn bulls pay their rent on the 9th of every month, then happily haul home a cart of premium grass. They love life in Kurd, fed well, protected from predators, and all they give up is a small amount of blood that doesn't affect their health. They bled far more living in the wild. They genuinely don't mind. I gave this month's blood to the 3rd skeleton mage and 1 orc prophet. My priority is always clear. Caster skeletons advance first, then other supernatural skeletons, with ordinary skeletons last. While I was running the production line, Kurd's thousands of skeletons kept building. The first 9-square grid hit its target, all 9 zones at 16-meter walls. The second grid reached 8 meters across all zones. West of the first grid, a third 9-square was taking shape with walls at 1 to 3 meters. Agriculture expanded massively. Beyond the farmland and livestock zones inside the 3 grids, I developed additional zones along their northern and southern borders. Kurd now has 18 farm zones and 6 livestock zones, each 1 square kilometer. Back in March, we planted potatoes in the first grid's 3 farm zones. By July, we had a huge harvest. Some went to food storage, the best were saved for seed, and the rest fed the livestock. 6 zones were already growing a second round of potatoes, for more were being tilled. The 2 wheat zones in the second grid were turning golden, nearly ready for harvest. After collecting that wheat, 8 designated zones would all switch to wheat planting. The Odyssey has no harsh winters. Crops can produce up to 3 harvests a year with proper scheduling. I plan to rotate potatoes and wheat on the same land to maximize nutrients and reduce pests. Composting was already underway to maintain yields without leaving fields fallow. Mediv, try my honey bread. In mid-September, after the skeleton farmers harvested wheat and the logistics skeletons ground it into flour, Audrey baked honey bread, something she'd been craving for over a year. Crispy, soft, delicious. I was genuinely surprised. Turns out Audrey's cooking isn't hopeless after all. She just needed to find her specialty, baking. With the harvests, Kurd's diet became rich: bread, potatoes, fish, beast meat, and various wild vegetables I'd been cultivating. Developing livestock needs quality feed, which needs agriculture. The Givort Federation has always wanted the Odyssey back precisely for its food production capacity. After the wheat harvest, skeletons used iron plows I'd designed to till the land. Once dried and prepared, all 8 designated zones would be planted with wheat. Next spring, our wheat output would multiply several times over. One evening in late September, a slave hunting party passing through the area spotted Kurd from a distance. A single 9-square grid is 10 square kilometers, hard to miss on the open plains. Their vice captain suggested raiding through the 3rd grid's low walls, but their leader, a slave merchant, shook his head. They'd captured a fortune in valuable tribal slaves this trip. Why risk attacking an obviously powerful settlement when they were already holding a golden watermelon? They camped away from Kurd, thinking they were safe. Lord Mediva's orders: leave no one alive, Suaishin announced, walking out of the tower castle to relay my commands alongside the caster skeletons. Anyone who comes near Kurd gets eliminated. I need more development time, and survivors spread word about my location. Suaishin and Suaixiang joined the skeleton army heading out. They'd been brought to this region by slave hunters themselves. They wanted to check if any captured slaves were their kin. Under cover of darkness, the skeletons crept toward the camp. The bone spirit assassins silently slit the throats of every outer sentry. Then they moved inward, killing sleeping hunters in their tents. Blood? Enemy attack. The vice captain, meditating in his tent, caught the faint scent and burst out shouting. The ambush was blown. Skeleton archers immediately opened fire on panicked fighters stumbling out of their tents. What's happening? The slave merchant ran out. He saw it with his own eyes, skeletons attacking his camp. He was stunned. Necromancers barely exist anymore. He'd only read about skeleton armies this size in history books. In today's world, who gave these bones the courage to attack? Captain, these skeletons aren't normal. The slave hunters thought they were dealing with typical worthless undead. Just wait for the surprise to wear off and smash them. But after fighting for a few minutes, their faces turned serious. Every skeleton hit like an apprentice knight with iron-hard bones, cutting through their battle-hardened warriors like pigs. A first-rank knight charged in to hold the line and got hacked to pieces by supernatural skeletons instantly. "Can you kill them all?" the slave merchant asked his vice-captain Urgot, a second-rank low-level knight, hoping for good news. "There are over 100 first-rank skeletons out there. I can't guarantee anything," Urgot said. "And while I'm fighting, I can't protect you." He was telling the merchant to abandon the slaves and run. Money can be earned again. You only live once. The merchant agreed and ordered his knights and elite fighters to cover his escape. They thought breaking out of camp would save them. Instead, they ran straight into my outer trap, dozens of Minotaur skeleton braves waiting in formation. Urgot charged ahead with full combat aura. A Minotaur brave swung its warhammer. The impact shocked Urgot backward. He dodged, but his horse's head exploded into pulp. If a second-rank knight had to dodge, the first-rank knights stood no chance. Some died silently from a single hammer blow. Others screamed with shattered bodies. Seeing disaster, Urgot abandoned the merchant and tried to escape alone. Business partners share profits, not death. "Urgot, you coward!" the merchant screamed, then dropped to his knees begging. My bone spirit assassins tied him up instead of killing him. I kept him alive for a reason. 2 slave hunting parties coming through this area meant there had to be a mountain route bypassing Winterhold Fortress into the Givort Federation. I'd been sending skeleton assassins into the mountains looking for exactly that. This merchant knew the path. I wanted directions, not ransom money. Some of his warriors were also captured for interrogation. With only Urgot left, the Minotaur shamans went to work. Taunt, Holy Shield, Earth, healing totems buffing the braves, while the orc prophets hit Urgot with every curse available: weakness, bleeding, darkness, and sleep. They skipped Pain Curse since it conflicts with sleep and taunt. Pain keeps the mind alert. Urgot was even more hopeless than the Bloodraven captain had been. He couldn't damage the armored braves, couldn't escape the taunts, and the curses degraded his combat ability from every angle. He didn't last long. He died begging. "I don't capture second-rank knights. Too dangerous to keep." The merchant and regular prisoners were enough for the information I needed. After the fight, the skeletons pulled the covers off the slave cages. All cat tribe people. When they heard the chaos, they'd hoped for rescue. Then they saw skeletons in the firelight, and their hope died. Whether they fell into a necromancer's hands or stayed as slaves, both seemed equally hopeless. "Kaling, what happened to the tribe? Why were you all captured?" Suexiang and Suexian rushed over when they learned the captives were all cat people. Suexiang grabbed one cat girl she recognized, a former teammate, an apprentice spirit rune warrior named Kaling. "Suexiang, how are you here?" Kaling tried to stand, but iron chains yanked her back. The merchant had chained their hands and feet to prevent self-harm. Hearing Suexiang's voice, every captive who'd been hanging their head in despair looked up with renewed hope. Suexiang walking freely among skeletons meant she had a connection to whoever controlled them. Through tears, Kaling explained everything. During the Great Famine after the mosquito plague, the old chieftain was badly wounded fighting other tribes for food and died soon after. The tribe's elder, their term for the sorcerer leader, had been in poor health for years, clinging to life hoping someone young could take over. After the chieftain's death, she couldn't hold things together alone. While the cat tribe fought enemies on one front, this slave-hunting party attacked from behind and captured many of their people. They deserved to be torn apart. Suexiang and Suexian searched the merchant's tent and came out with ice in their eyes, staring at the bound merchant so hard he shivered. This hunting party had captured so many cat people that the merchant didn't bother preserving his merchandise. He and his officers had taken over a dozen cat girls for their personal entertainment. Those girls had freed themselves during the battle and killed themselves rather than endure any more.